Invite all to the way of thy Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin today's program with the Qiraat by Brother Ashraf Muhammadi.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. ثم إنكم بعد ذلك لميتون ثم إنكم يوم القيامة تبعثون. ولقد خلقنا فوقكم 7 طرائق وما كنا عن الخلق غافلين. وأنزلنا من السماء ماء بقدر فأسكناه في الأرض وإنا على ذهاب به لقادرون. فأنشأنا لكم به جنات من نخيل وأعناب لكم فيها فواكه كثيرة ومنها تأكلون. وشجرة تخرج من طور سيناء تنبت بالدحن وصبغ للآكلين. وإن لكم في الأنعام لعبرة نسقيكم مما في بطونها ولكم فيها منافع كثيرة ومنها تأكلون وعليها وعلى الفلك تحملون صدق الله العظيم. The translation from Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verses 12 to 22. Man we did create from a quintessence of clay. Then we placed him as a drop of sperm in a place of rest, firmly fixed. Then we made the sperm into a clot of congealed blood. Then of that clot we made a fetus lump. Then we made out of that lump bones and clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature. So blessed be Allah, the best to create. After that, at length you will die. Again, on the day of judgment, will you be raised up. And we have made above you 7 tracts. And we are never unmindful of our creation. And we send down water from the sky according to due measure. And we cause it to soak in the soil. And we certainly are able to drain it off with ease. With it, we grow for you gardens of date palms and vines. In them have you abundant fruits, and of them you eat and have enjoyment. Also, a tree springing out of Mount Sinai, which produces oil and relish for those who use it for food. And in cattle too, you have an instructive example. From within their bodies, they produce milk for you to drink. There are in them, besides, numerous other benefits for you. And of their meat you eat. And on them, as well as in ships, you ride. Verily, Allah has spoken the truth.
Distinguished guests of honor, respected elders, scholars, and scientists present today, our guests from out of Mumbai, our guests from foreign countries, brothers and sisters, I welcome you all with the Islamic greetings as well as a global integration and humanitarian greetings. Assalamu alaikum. May peace be on you. I am your host and coordinator for today's program. The Islamic Research Foundation strives for Islamic dawah, the proper presentation, appreciation, understanding, and clarification of Islam amongst Muslims as well as non-Muslims. Reason, logic, and scientific understanding have been the basis of all our programs and discussions. The IRF office complex has a video cassette library, a computer department, an audio-video recording room, a cable and satellite television production studio, a ladies' wing, a children's wing, a multi-purpose audio-visual reading room, in addition to the various other facilities and programs it conducts outside this office complex. These facilities and services help in presenting a proper understanding of the excellence of Islam and its proper teachings amongst people. The IRF video cassette library has been quite popular among the people of Bombay, and it has one of the largest collection of videotapes on Islam and comparative religion in the whole world. We have more than 3,000 video cassette titles of cassettes on Islam and comparative religion. These video cassette titles include films, interviews, documentaries, and television programs produced by internationally acclaimed production units. We have videotapes of internationally renowned scholars and orators on Islam like Sheikh Ahmad Deedat, Dr. Israr Ahmad, Dr. Jamal Badawi, Gary Miller, Dr. Khalid Al-Mansour, Yusuf Islam, known to many earlier as the pop singer Cat Stevens, Maulana Abdul Karim Parekh, Imam Hamza Yusuf, Imam Siraj Wahaj, Dr. Zakir Naik, and many others. The computer department of the Islamic Research Foundation deals with the studies and data related to Quran and Hadith, Fiqh, Sharia, Islamic programs, as well as quizzes. These are available on computer diskettes. In addition, the Islamic Research Foundation computer section has gone in for recently the CD-ROM multimedia program format, as well as the internet facility to be in a better stance to communicate in the contemporary world. Dr. Zakir Naik, our speaker for today, as far as introducing him in context of today's talk, I would like to briefly say this. From a doctor by professional training, graduating from the TN Medical College, Nair Hospital, Dr. Zakir Abdul Karim Naik has turned around to make dawah the proper presentation and propagation of Islam as his primary mission in life. The Holy Quran and the Islamic way of life is his base in perfection, fully reinforced by the logic and dynamic analysis of the complete compatibility of Islam with scientific understanding and reason. Dr. Zakir speaks with renewed righteousness and infallibility of Islamic teachings. Dr. Zakir Naik is the president of the Islamic Research Foundation. He is regarded as one of the leading international dynamic orators on Islam and comparative religion. Recently, he has just returned from a tour, a lecture tour of United States of America, Britain, and Canada, where he delivered 56 talks at the various cities he spoke at, namely New York, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, Hamilton, Atlanta, Chicago, Indianapolis, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, Leicester, Birmingham, London, and a few other cities. In fact, tomorrow and day after, he is scheduled to give 6 lectures in Bangalore. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, there's the first lecture. And after another 3 days, he leaves for a 6-day hectic lecture tour of Singapore, and then 6 days tour of Malaysia. As far as our topic for today goes, the question arises, why did we choose this topic? Religion and science are two very important factors in human affairs and motivations, whether in conflict or in conciliation. Down the ages, false religiosity has been at loggerheads with scientific understanding, advancement, and truthful reasoning. Most religious scriptures have been assessed by scientists as conflicting with many places of the scriptures with context to scientific facts. You may ask, is the Holy Quran too in conflict with modern science? This needs to be objectively and knowledgeably analyzed. Does the Quranic wisdom agree totally with modern scientific understanding? To logically and scientifically cross-examine this in open public, the Islamic Research Foundation is holding this program and lecture talk on Quran and Modern Science, Conflict or Conciliation by Dr. Zakir Naik. After the talk and the question and answer session, we leave it up to you, the audience, to decide whether the Quran conflicts or it conciliates with modern science. For your objective hearing of his talk and open cross-examination on the topic in the question and answer session, may I present before you Dr. Zakir Naik.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My respected elders and my dear brothers and sisters, I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, blessings and mercy of Almighty Allah be on all of you. The topic of this evening's talk is Quran and Modern Science, Conflict or Conciliation. The Holy Quran is the last and final revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was revealed to the last and final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. For any book to claim that it's a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for any book to claim it's a word of Almighty God, it should stand the test of time. It should prove itself to be the word of God in all the ages. Previously, it was the age of miracles, mu'jiza. A miracle is any unusual event for which the human beings do not have any explanation. It's any unusual event which is attributed to a supernatural power or Almighty God. The Holy Quran is the miracle of miracles. But for a modern man to accept any miracle, he will first analyze and verify it. Alhamdulillah, the Holy Quran proved itself to be a word of God 1400 years ago. Even today it can be analyzed and verified, and even in future, and it will always prove itself to be a word of Almighty God. It's a miracle of all times. Suppose a person says that he has done a miracle. I'd like to give an example of Baba Pilot, who said that he stayed underwater in a tank for 3 days. And when the reporters, when they wanted to examine the base of the tank, he said, "How can you examine the womb of the mother which gives birth to the child?" and he prevented the reporters from examining the base of the tank. Will a modern man accept such miracles? If such miracles are the test, then you have to agree with me that PC Sarkar, who happens to be one of the leading magicians of the world, he will be considered as the best God-man alive today. Later on came the age of literature and poetry. Muslims and non-Muslims alike, they acclaim the Holy Quran to be the best Arabic literature available on the face of the earth. And the Holy Quran gives a challenge in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 23 and 24, where it says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا. And if you are in doubt as what we have revealed to our servant from time to time, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ. Then produce a surah somewhat similar to it. وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. And call forth your witnesses and helpers if there are any besides Allah. But if your doubts are truthful. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا. And if you cannot. وَلَمْ تَفْعَلُوا. And of a surety you cannot. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسَ وَالْحِجَارَةُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Then fear the fire which is prepared for those who reject faith, whose fuel shall be men and stones. For anyone to try and accept this challenge, but natural, the surah they produced should be in Arabic. There are certain surahs which are hardly 3 verses, hardly 3 sentences. The surah you produce should be in Arabic. The language should be as divine as that of the Holy Quran, as noble as the Holy Quran. The language of the Holy Quran is miraculous, is unsurpassable, intelligible. It has the highest rhetoric. And at the same time, it is very rhythmic. When anyone wants to praise a person or want to glorify anyone, he deviates away from reality. And the best example you can see is in the Hindi movies when the hero praises the heroine and he tries to please her and says, मैं तुम्हारे लिए चांद तोड़ के लेके आऊंगा, मैं तुम्हारे लिए सितारे तोड़ के लेके आऊंगा, I will get for you the moon, I will get for you the star. The more you try and praise a person, the more you deviate away from reality. Alhamdulillah, though the Quran is rhythmic, it does not deviate from reality. There were many people who tried to produce a surah like the Quran, but they failed miserably. No one has been able to do it so far, and no one, inshallah, will be able to do it till eternity. But suppose if I tell you that there's a religious scripture who says in a very poetic fashion that the world is flat. Will a modern man today believe? But natural, no, because today is not the age of literature and poetry. Today is the age of science and technology. So let's analyze today the Holy Quran and modern science, whether they conflict or conciliate. The Quran and modern science, whether they contradict or they're compatible. According to the famous physicist Albert Einstein, who had got a Nobel Prize, he said, "Science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind." I would like to repeat it. Albert Einstein said that science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. I would like to remind you that the Holy Quran is not a book of science, S-C-I-E-N-C-E, but it's a book of signs, S-I-G-N-S. It's a book of ayats. And there are more than 6,000 signs or 6,000 ayats, out of which more than 1,000 speak about science. There are some people who will be satisfied just by acquiring one sign. Some people require 10 signs to accept the truth. Some may require 100. While the others, even after you produce 1,000 signs to them, yet they will not accept the truth. As far as my talk today will be concerned, I will only be speaking about those scientific facts which have been established. I will not be speaking about theories which are based on assumptions and hypotheses. Because we know very well that many a times, science based on theories and hypotheses, it takes U-turns. In the field of astronomy, if you ask a scientist that how was our universe formed, how did it come into existence? So he will tell you about the Big Bang theory, that initially the whole universe was one primary nebula. Then there was a secondary separation, which gave rise to galaxies, which further split to form things such as our solar system, which gave rise to planets, the sun, and the present Earth which we live in. I start my talk by quoting a verse of the Holy Quran from Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30, which says, "Avalam yaral lazina kafaru." Do not the unbelievers see, "Anna samawati wal arda kanata ratkan fafataknahuma." The heavens and the earth were joined together, and we clove them asunder. This verse of the Holy Quran speaks about the Big Bang theory in a nutshell. Imagine what we came to know today, the Holy Quran mentions 1400 years ago. And the Quran also says in Surah Fussilat, chapter 41, verse number 11, that moreover, in his design, he comprehended the sky, and it had been smoke. And he said to it and the earth, "Come eat together, willingly or unwillingly." And they said, "We come together in willing obedience." The Arabic word used here is dukhan, which means smoke. If you ask a scientist, he will tell you that the universe, before it was formed, the celestial matter, it was in the state of gas. And the Arabic word dukhan, which means smoke, is more scientifically correct than mere gas. And according to Stephen Hawking, who's a very famous scientist, he said, the discovery of bridges of matter in the space is the biggest discovery of the century, which gives us undisputable evidence of the creation of the universe and the Big Bang theory. Previously, the people thought that the world we live in, it is flat. And they were afraid to venture too far, lest they would fall over. It was only in 1597, when Sir Francis Drake, when he sailed around the earth, he proved that the world was spherical. The Quran mentions in Surah Luqman, chapter number 31, verse number 29, "Alam tara anna Allaha yuliju layla fil nahari wa yuliju nahara fil layli." It is Allah that merges the night unto the day and merges the day unto the night. Merging is a slow and gradual process. The night slowly and gradually changes to day, and the day slowly and gradually changes to night. This phenomena is only possible if the shape of the earth is spherical. It's not possible if it's flat. If it was flat, there will be a sudden change. The Quran says in Surah Al-Zumar, chapter number 39, verse number 5, it says, "Huwa alladhi khalaqa samawati bil haqqi." It is Allah who has created the heavens and the earth in true proportion. And he overlaps and coils the night unto the day, and overlaps or coils the day unto the night. The Arabic word used is kawara, which means overlapping or coiling. How you coil a turban around the head. How you overlap a turban around the head. This phenomena of the night overlapping and coiling over the day is only possible if the shape of the earth is spherical. It's not possible if the shape of the earth is flat. There will be a sudden change. The Holy Quran further says in Surah Naziyat, chapter number 79, verse number 30, it says, وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا. And thereafter we have made the earth egg-shaped. The Arabic word dahaha comes from the root word dhuya, meaning an egg shape. And it does not refer to any normal egg. It specifically refers to the egg of an ostrich. And today we know that the world is not completely round like a ball. It is geospherical. It's slightly flattened from the top and bulging from the center. It's geospherical. And if you analyze the shape of the egg of an ostrich, it too is geospherical, slightly flattened from the top and bulging from the center. So the Holy Quran describes the exact geospherical earth 1400 years ago. Previously we thought that the light of the moon is its own light. It's recently we discovered that the light of the moon is reflected light of the sun. The Quran says in Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 61, blessed is he who has created the constellations in the sky and placed therein a lamp and moon having borrowed light. The Quran says in Surah Yunus, chapter number 10, verse number 5, it is Allah who has created the sun as a shining glory and the moon having a reflection of light. The similar message is repeated in Surah Nuh, chapter 71, verse number 15 and 16. The Arabic word for sun is shams. It's always described either as siraj, meaning a torch, or wahaj, meaning a blazing lamp, or diya, meaning a shining glory. The moon, the Arabic word is qamar. It's always described as munir, meaning borrowed light, or nur, which is a reflection of light. Nowhere is the moonlight described as siraj or wahaj or diya. Always as munir or nur, that's borrowed light or a reflection of light. The Quran says in Surah Tariq, chapter number 86, verse number 3, An-Najm as-Saqib. The Arabic word for the star is Najm. Is described as Saqib. Its light is described as Saqib. It pierces the darkness and consumes itself. Previously, the Europeans, they thought that the earth stood dead in the center of the universe and all the planets, including the sun, it revolved around the earth. It was known as the theory of geocentrism. It was believed by Ptolemy in the 2nd century BC and was believed till as late as 16th century until Copernicus said that the earth and the planets revolve around the sun. And later on, in 1609, Johannes Kepler wrote in his book, Astronomia Novia, that not only do the earth and the planets revolve around the sun, they also rotate about their own axis. When I was in school, I had learned that the earth and the planets, they rotate about their axis. But I was taught that the sun was fixed. It did not rotate about its own axis. But the Holy Quran says in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 33, it says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ. It is Allah who has created the night and the day. وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ. The sun and the moon. كُلٌّ فِي فَلَكِ يَسْبَحُونَ. Each one traveling in orbit with its own motion. The Arabic word yasbahun is derived from the word sabaha, which describes the motion of a moving body. If I say that a man is doing sabaha on the ground, it will not mean that he's rolling. It will mean he's either walking or running. If I say a person is doing sabaha in the water, it will not mean he is floating, it will mean he is swimming. Similarly, when the Quran uses the word yasbahun, derived from sabaha, for a celestial body, it will not mean it is flying, it will mean it is rotating about its own axis. And today, we have come to know, with the help of an equipment, we can have the image of the sun on a tabletop. And we see there are black spots. And it takes approximately 25 days for these black spots to complete one rotation, indicating that the sun takes approximately 25 days to complete one rotation. Can you imagine? The Quran speaks about the rotation and the revolution of the sun 1400 years ago, which science has discovered today. The Holy Quran says in Surah Yasin, chapter number 36, verse number 40, it is not permitted for the sun to catch up with the moon, nor the night to outstrip the day. Kullun fi falaki yasbahun, each one traveling in an orbit with its own motion. What does the Quran mean by saying it is not permitted for the sun to catch up with the moon? Previously, people thought that the orbit of the sun and the moon was same. But Quran gives the indication, no, the orbit of the sun and the moon is different. So the question of catching up does not arise. And each of them, the sun and the moon, they rotate as well as revolve. The Quran says in Surah Yasin, chapter number 36, verse number 38, وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا, that the sun is running its course to a place determined, for a period determined. The Arabic word mustaqar means to a place determined, for a period determined. Today, science has come to know that the sun, along with the solar system, it is going towards a point in the universe which the scientists call as the solar apex. And it's moving at a speed of 12 miles per second. And it's going to a point which they call as a point in the constellation of Hercules. This same message is repeated in Surah Ra'd, chapter number 13, verse number 2. In Surah Fatir, chapter number 35, verse number 13. In Surah Luqman, chapter number 31, verse number 29. As well as in Surah Al-Zumar, chapter number 39, verse number 5, it says that the sun and the moon runs its course for a period determined. The Quran says in Surah Dhariyat, chapter number 51, verse number 47, that it is we who have constructed with power and skill the firmaments, and it's we who make the vastness and the expanding universe. The Arabic word musi'una means expanding universe, the vastness of space. Edwin Eho, who is a famous scientist, he discovered and said that the universe is expanding, the galaxies are receding from one another, which the Quran has mentioned 1400 years ago. There may be some people who say, it's nothing great that the Holy Quran speaks about astronomy, since the Arabs, they were very well advanced in the field of astronomy. I would like to bring to the notice that it was centuries after the Holy Quran was revealed that the Arabs became advanced in astronomy. So it's the Quran that the Arabs learned about astronomy and not the vice versa. In the field of physics, there was a theory known as atomism, that atom is the smallest part of matter which cannot be divided. This theory was propounded by Democrats, the Greeks, 23 centuries ago. And it was also known to the Arabs. And the Arabic word for atom is zarrah. But today, after science has advanced, we have come to know that though atom is the smallest particle of matter, having the characteristic of the element, it yet can be divided into electrons, protons, etc. So people may think that the Quran is outdated. The Quran does speak about zarra and says it's a minute particle. But nowhere does it say that it cannot be divided. In fact, the Quran says in Surah Sabah, chapter number 34, verse number 3, it says that when the unbelievers say that the hour will never come, tell them, it will surely come with the permission of the Lord, who has the knowledge of the unseen, who has in his record the minutest detail of an atom in the heaven and in the earth. And in his record is perpetuous, things smaller and greater than the atom. So Quran says there are things smaller and greater than the atom. So Quran is not outdated, it is up to date. The similar message is repeated in Surah Yunus, chapter number 10, verse number 61, that in Allah's record is perpetuous, things smaller and greater than the atom. In the field of geography, we learn in school about the coherent water cycle. This was first described by Sir Bernard Palissy in 1580. And he said, how does water evaporate from the ocean, forms clouds, the clouds move in the interior, how does it fall as rain, the rainwater flows into the ocean, and the cycle is completed. Previously, people thought, in the 7th century BC, phase of Meletus, he said that the spray of the ocean was picked up by the wind and it fell into the interior as rain. People did not know how did the underground water, the springs, where did they come from. So they thought that due to the pressure of the winds on the water, the thrust of the winds on the water, it fell into the interior as rain. And this rainwater seeped into the soil and returned to the ocean through a secret passage, the abyss, which was known at the time of the plateau as Tartarus. People believed in this theory of Descartes even till as late as 17th century. And philosophers like Aristotle's theory was believed till as late as 19th century, that water vapor evaporated from the soil, it condensed in mountain cavern, and these mountain caverns formed lakes which fed the spring water. Today we know that the underground water, the springs, it is due to the seepage of the rainwater. And the Quran says that in Surah Al-Zumar, chapter number 39, verse number 21, seest thou not that it is Allah who sends down rain from the sky and seeps it in the sources in the ground, in the springs in the earth, and causes sown field of various colors to grow. The message is repeated in Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse number 24. Allah sends down rain and dead earth brings it back to life. The Quran says in Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 18, that it is Allah who sends down rain in due measure. We are able to store it, and we are also able to easily drain it. The Quran says in Surah Al-Hijr, chapter number 15, verse number 22, it says that we send fecundating winds, wind impregnating, and cause rain to descend from the sky and give you water in due measure. The Arabic word lawaki used here is the plural of laki, derived from lakaha, which means to impregnate or to fecundate. The winds carrying the pollen, they impregnate the clouds, and then rain falls. The wind causes the clouds to merge. There's condensation, there's lightning, and rain falls from the clouds. The Quran describes the complete water cycle. How does the water evaporate, how it forms clouds, how it moves in the interior, how it falls down, how it flows back into the ocean, in several places. In Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 43. In Surah Naba, chapter number 78, verse number 12 to 14, as well as in Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse number 48. The Holy Quran says in Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 43, that we send mountain masses of clouds. What does the Quran mean by saying we send mountain masses of clouds? Today, If anyone has been traveling in an aeroplane, he will realize that when the aeroplane goes above the clouds and he looks at the clouds beneath, he will see that the clouds appear as mountain masses. Quran has said this 1400 years ago. There wasn't an aeroplane 1400 years ago. Quran describes hydrology and water cycle in several places in great detail. It's mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, chapter number 3, verse number 9. In Surah Araf, chapter number 7, verse number 57. In Surah Rod, chapter number 13, verse number 17. In Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 48 and 49. In Surah Fatir, chapter number 35, verse number 9. In Surah Yasin, chapter number 36, verse number 34. In Surah Jashia, chapter number 45, verse number 5. In Surah Qaf, chapter number 50, verse number 9 and 10. In Surah Waqia, chapter number 56, verse number 68 to 70. As well as in Surah Mulk, chapter number 67, verse number 30. The Quran describes the hydrology and water cycle in great detail. Let's discuss the field of geology. Today the geologists, they tell us that the earth we live on, the outer crust, it's hard and solid. And the deeper layers, they're hot and fluid and inhospitable for the existence of living creatures. The geologists, they tell us that the outer crust is very thin, hardly 1 to 10 miles. Less than 1% of the radius of the earth, which is 3,750 miles. And the outer crust is very thin, and there are high possibilities of it shaking. Today, geologists tell us it's due to the folding phenomena, which gives rise to mountain ranges. And these mountains, they prevent the earth from shaking. They act as pegs, as stakes. The Holy Quran says in Surah Naba, chapter 78, verse number 6 and 7, it says, "We have made the earth as an expanse, wal jibala autada, and the mountains as stakes." The Arabic word autad means stakes, means pegs, which we have discovered today. The Holy Quran says in Surah Jashia, chapter 88, verse number 19, as well as in Surah Naziyat, chapter 79, verse number 32. It says, "Wal jibala arsaha." We have made the mountains standing firm. There's a book by the title, The Earth, which is a very famous book, an authority in this field, which is referred by most of the universities throughout the world in this subject. One of its authors' name is Frank Press. And he gives the illustration of the mountain in this book called Earth as wedge-shaped. And he says the function of the mountain is to stabilize the earth's crust. And Quran says that. The same information in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 31, as well as in Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse number 10, and Surah Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 15, that we have set on the earth mountain standing firm lest it would shake. The Quran gives the functions of the mountain 1400 years ago, which we discovered today. In the field of oceanology, the Holy Quran says in Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse number 53, "It is Allah who has let free two bodies of flowing water, one sweet and palpable, and the other salt and bitter. And between them there is a barzakh, a barrier, which is forbidden to be trespassed." The Quran repeats the message in Surah Rahman, chapter number 55, verse number 19 and 20. "Marajal bahrain yaltaqiyan, bainahuma barzakhun la yabghiyan." That it is Allah who has let free two bodies of flowing water, which meet, and between them there is a barrier which is forbidden to be trespassed. The Arabic word barzakh means a barrier. And the Arabic statement, "Marajal bahrain yaltaqiyan," means the flowing bodies of water, they meet and mix. Previously, the commentators, they could not understand the two opposite description of the two bodies of flowing water. It says they meet and mix, as well as it says there's a barrier between them. The commentator of the Quran could not explain what did this verse actually mean. It was confusing. Today, we have come to know with the help of science that there is a slanting barrier between the two bodies of salt water and sweet water, between the salt sea and the sweet sea. And whenever water passes from one sea to the other sea, it loses its characteristic and gets homogenized into the water it flows. There is a barrier, but this barrier is called as a transitional homogenizing space or area. Both the waters, though they meet and mix, but the characteristics yet remain the same. Salt water remains salt, the sweet water remains sweet. And this phenomena can be seen in Cape Point, southernmost tip of South Africa in Cape Town, where salt and sweet water meet, but they are distinct. They don't mix. When they flow across, the water changes its characteristics. Similar thing can be observed in Egypt when River Nile flows into the Mediterranean Sea, as well as the example of Gulf Stream, which starts in the Gulf of Mexico, though it flows for thousands of miles. Both the water, salt and sweet water, they are distinct. And if you're traveling in a boat, and if you pick up water from one side of the boat and water from the other side, you'll find that both the waters are different. One is sweet and the other is salty. Even the temperature differs. Even in the area of Gibraltar, the Atlantic and the Mediterranean Ocean, there is an unseen barrier. And this was confirmed, this phenomena which the Quran speaks about, was confirmed by Professor Hay, who is a leading Marine of USA. The Quran asks the people that which of the favors of thy Lord will you deny? In Surah Rahman itself, chapter 55, this verse, then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny, is repeated no less than 31 times. It speaks about a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about trees, about the heavens, and then asks you, then which of the signs of thy Lord will you deny? It speaks about what cycle, and then asks you, then which of the signs of thy Lord will you deny? It speaks about the barrier between the sweet and the salt water, and then asks you, which of the signs of thy Lord will you deny? The Quran in one chapter itself, it's asking its reader, which of the signs of God Almighty will you people deny? It's prodding you that all these signs, from where do they come? Which of the signs will you deny? In the field of biology, the Holy Quran says in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We have created every living thing from water. Will you not then believe? Imagine, in the deserts of Arabia, where there was scarcity of water, the Quran says everything was created from water. Who would have believed in it? Anything else the Quran would have said, people could have believed. Water, where there was scarcity, the Quran says 1400 years ago, every living thing is created from water. Today we have come to know that cytoplasm, which is the basic substance of the living cell, contains 80% water. Every living creature contains 50 to 70% water. And without water, the living creature cannot survive. It's a must. Quran asks you, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We have created from water every living thing. Will you not then believe? Allah is saying that everything is created from water, which you came to know today. Quran mentioned that 1400 years ago. Will you not then believe? It's asking you a question. It wants a reply. The Quran says in Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 45, that we have created every living animal from water. The Quran says in Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse number 54, we have created the man from water. Imagine, 1400 years ago, the Quran mentions this. In the field of botany, we have come to know recently that even the plants have got sexes, male and female. Previously, we did not know that. Even the unisexual plant has got distinct characteristics of male and female. The Quran says in Surah Taha, chapter number 20, verse number 53, it is Allah who sends down water from the sky and causes diverse pairs of plants to grow, each separate from the other. That means the plants have got sexes, male and female. The Quran says in Surah Rad, chapter number 13, verse number 3, we have created every kind of fruit in pairs, 2 and 2. Even the fruits have got sexes, male and female. In the field of zoology, the Holy Quran says in Surah Anam, chapter number 6, verse number 38, that we have created every living animal that lives on the earth and every bird that flies on the wings in the air to live in communities like you. Today, science has discovered that even the animals and birds live in community like the human beings. The Quran describes the flight of the bird in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 79. That do you not look at the bird subjected in the midst in the air? None of them can hold them up except with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran repeats in Surah Mulk, chapter 67, verse number 19. Do you not observe the birds above you? They spread their wings and they fold it. None can hold them up except with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He watches over all things. This verse of the Holy Quran, there is a very striking resemblance with what modern science has discovered today, that the birds have got a certain migratory programming in the nervous system. That's the reason that young birds, without any prior experience, can take flights of thousands of miles without a guide. And they come back to the departure point also. And a very good example is given by Professor Hamburger in his book, Power and Fragility, of the mutton bird. The mutton bird lives in the Pacific. It has a journey of more than 15,000 miles, and it takes about 6 months. And it comes back to the departure point in a delay of not more than 1 week. How is it possible? The scientists say there has to be a certain programming of these birds. Who is programming them? But natural, as the Holy Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds them up. The Arabic word, amsaka, meaning to seize or to hold. The Quran says in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 68 and 69, that it is the Lord who has taught the bees to build cells in hills, in trees, and human habitations, and to eat of what the earth produces, and to find the spacious path of the Lord with great skill. What does the Quran mean by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught the bee to find the spacious path of the Lord? Von Frisch, who is a scientist, he got the Nobel Prize in 1973 when he described the behavior of the animals, especially the communication method of the bee. And today we have come to know that whenever a worker bee finds a new flower or a new garden from where it can take nectar, it goes and tells its fellow bees the exact direction and map of that new flower or garden. It's called as the bee dance. Only today we have come to know by high photographic methods how is this communication given. The gender used in the Holy Quran in these verses of Surah Nahl chapter 16, verse 68 and 69 is a female gender, kulli or fasluki, which means a female bee. Previously we thought it was the male bee which was the worker bee. No wonder Shakespeare in his play Henry IV, he writes that the soldier bee, the male bee, goes and reports to the king. Today we have come to know it is not the king which they report to, it's the queen. And the worker bee is not the male bee, it's a female bee. Quran speaks about the gender of the worker bee 1400 years ago, which we have discovered today. The Holy Quran says in Surah Ankabut, chapter 29, verse number 41, that as to those who take for protectors anyone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they build for themselves houses like that of the spider. And verily, the house of the spider is fragile. It is delicate. Besides the Quran saying that anyone who takes for protectors anyone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the physical nature of the house will be like that of the spider, fragile, delicate, flimsy. It also gives a reference to the family life, which we have come to know today, that many a times the female spider kills the male spider. The Quran says in Surah Namal, chapter 27, verse number 17 and 18, that before Solomon marched the hosts of jinns, men, and birds, and when they reached a lowly valley of ants, one of the ants said, "Get ye into your habitations, lest Solomon and his hosts unknowingly will trample you beneath the feet." People will think, what kind of a fairy tale book is the Holy Quran? This book, the Holy Quran, it's speaking about ants. Ants talking among themselves. It's a fairy tale book. Today we have come to know that any animal or any insect which has the closest resemblance to that of the human being, it is the ant. The ant bury the dead the same way as the human beings do. They have a sophisticated method and division of labor, where they have manager, supervisor, workers, etc. They very often meet to chat. They have a sophisticated method of communication. They have marketplaces where they exchange goods. And when they store the grain in winter, and if the grain begins to bud, the ant cut the bud as though they knew that budding will cause rotting of the grain. And monsoon, if the grain gets wet, they bring it out in the sunlight to dry. Surely you might have seen the ants carrying grains in the sunlight to dry, as though they knew that humidity will cause the development of root system, which will cause rotting of the grain. So Quran speaks about the advanced nature of the ants 1400 years ago. In the field of medicine, the Holy Quran says in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 60 and 69, that from the belly of the bee, you get a drink of varying colors in which there is healing for mankind. It's recently we have come to know that the honey we have is derived from the bee. It's the bee which is responsible for the honey. We did not know about this before. And today we know honey has got high nutritive values. It's rich in vitamin K and fructose. And it has got mild antiseptic properties. No wonder the Russian soldiers, they used honey to cover up their wounds, which prevented the evaporation of moisture and left very little scar tissue. Any person suffering from an allergy of a particular plant, if honey produced from that plant is given, that person starts developing resistance to that allergy. In the field of physiology, it was Ibn Nafis who 600 years after the revelation of the Holy Quran described the blood circulation. And 1,000 years after the revelation of the Holy Quran, that is 400 years after Ibn Nafis described the blood circulation, William Harvey, he made it famous to the Western world. The food that we eat, it enters the stomach, it enters the intestine. From the intestine, it goes into the blood vessels of the intestine and enters the blood circulation. And the blood circulation takes the food substance to various organs, including the mammary glands which produce milk. The Quran speaks about the blood circulation and the production of milk in a nutshell in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 66, where it says that verily in the cattle is a lesson for you. We give you to drink from what is within the bodies, coming from the conjunction of the constituent of the intestine and blood, milk which is pure and pleasant for those who drink. The Quran says in Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse number 21, which is also recited by our Qari, Brother Ashraf Muhammadi, it says that verily in the cattle is an instructive sign for you. We give you to drink from what is within the bodies, in which there is various benefits, and of the meat you can eat. Quran describes the blood circulation and the production of milk in a nutshell 1400 years ago. In the field of embryology, there were a group of Arab students who collected all the matter in the Holy Quran dealing with embryology, and they followed the guidance of the Holy Quran in Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse 59, which says, if you are in doubt, ask the person who knows, ask the person who is knowledgeable. So they took all these data given in the Holy Quran dealing with embryology and presented it to Professor Keith Moore. Professor Keith Moore is the head and chairman of the Department of Anatomy in the University of Toronto in Canada, and is one of the leading authorities in the world in the field of embryology. When Professor Keith Moore went through the translation of the various verses of the Quran dealing with embryology, he said that most of the thing which the Quran speaks about embryology is matching with the latest discoveries made in the field of embryology. But there are a couple of things which I cannot say that they are right. Neither can I say that they are wrong, because I myself not know about it. And one such verse was from Surah Iqra or Surah Alaq, chapter 96, verse number 1 and 2, which says, Iqra bismi rabbika allazi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. Read, recite or proclaim in the name of thy Lord who created the human beings from something which clings, a leech-like substance. So Professor Keith Moore said, I do not know whether the embryo looks like a leech or not. So he went in his laboratory and under a very powerful microscope examined the shape of the early stage of embryo and compared it with a photograph of a leech. And he was astonished at the striking resemblance. And when he was asked about 80 questions on embryology, taken from the Holy Quran and Hadith, he said that if you would have asked me all these things 30 years ago, I would not be able to answer more than 50% of this. Because embryology, the development of embryology, is just recently, hardly 30 to 50 years, it's advanced. And Professor Keith Moore, he has written a book, The Developing Human. And in his new edition, the third edition, he has incorporated the new things which he found from the Quran and the Hadith, for which he got an award for the best medical book written in that year by any single author. And when I was doing my MBBS in the first year, we referred to this book, Developing Human by Keith Moore. If you wanted to score high marks in embryology, we referred to the book by Keith Moore. If you wanted to get just passing mark, we referred to Inderbir Singh. But if you wanted to score, we had to refer to the book by Professor Keith Moore. And later on, this book was translated into several languages of the world. Professor Keith Moore said, I have got no objection in accepting that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of God Almighty. And that the Holy Quran has to be a divine revelation. The Holy Quran says in Surah Tariq, chapter 86, verse number 5 to 7, let now man think from what he's created. He's created from a drop, emitted from a space between the backbone and the ribs. Today we have come to know the genital organs, the testes in the males and the ovaries in the female, in the embryonic age, they develop from a space where the kidney is present today, between the backbone and the 11th and 12th rib. Later on, the testes, they descend through the inguinal colon into the scrotum, and the ovaries in the female to the true pelvis. But in the embryonic age, it's in the space where the Quran speaks about, between the backbone, the spinal column, and the 11th and 12th rib. Even in the adult life, after the genital organs they descend, yet they receive the blood supply, the nerve supply, and the lymphatic drainage from the same space between the spinal column and the 11th and 12th rib. The Holy Quran mentions in Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse number 13, as well as in Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 5, that we have created the human beings from a nutfa. The Arabic word nutfa, that the human beings have been created from nutfa, is mentioned in the Quran no less than 11 times. And the word nutfa is mentioned 12 times. But human beings created from nutfa is mentioned 11 times. The Arabic word nutfa means a minute quantity of liquid. The Holy Quran says in Surah Sajda, chapter 32, verse number 8, that we have created the human beings from a quintessence of liquid. The Arabic word is sulala, meaning a minute quantity or the best part of the whole. And today we have come to know only one sperm actually, it penetrates the ovum. And only one sperm is required to fertilize the ovum out of the tens of millions of sperms which the man ejaculates. Quran refers to it as sulala, the best part of the whole, or nutfa, a minute quantity. The Quran says in Surah Insan, chapter 76, verse number 2, Inna khalaqnal insana min nutfatin amshaj. The Arabic word means nutfatin amshaj, means we have created the human being from a minute quantity of mingled fluids. Nutfatin amshaj, minute quantity of mingled fluid. This can refer to the male and female gametes after they form the zygote. It yet remains a nutfa, a minute quantity of liquid. It can also refer to the spermatic fluid, which contains several secretions from various glands, like the testes, the serofluid, which contains the spermatozoons. It also includes the secretion from the seminal vesicles, the seminal fluids, which is a reservoir of spermatozoons, but does not contain the fertilizing agent. Also, it refers to the secretion of the prostatic glands, which gives the creamy texture and the characteristic odor to the sperm, as well as glands attached to the urinary tract, the Cooper's gland or the Litter's gland, which gives the specific texture of mucus to the sperm. The Quran refers to as nutfatin amshaj, minute quantity of mingled fluid. Male and female gametes surrounded by these fluids, which are responsible for the birth of the human being. The Holy Quran says in Surah Az-Zumar, chapter 39, verse number 6, we have created the human beings in the wombs of their mother, in stages, one after the other, in 3 waves of darkness. Professor Keith Moore said, these 3 waves of darkness refers to the anterior abdominal wall of the mother, the uterine wall, and the amniochorionic membrane. The Quran also speaks about genetics. The Quran says in Surah Najm, chapter 53, verse number 45 and 46, that we have created the human beings and made them into male and female from a minute quantity of liquid which is ejaculated. But naturally, if it's ejaculated, it has to be a male fluid. Quran says it is the male which is responsible for the sex of the child. The Quran repeats this message in Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse number 37 to 39, that we have created the human beings from a minute quantity of sperm, and then made it into an alaqa, a leech-like substance, then gave it due proportion, then made it into sex, male and female. The Arabic word, nutfatam, min mani yumna, means a minute quantity of sperm. Quran says a minute quantity of sperm is required for sex of the child. Today's science has come to know that the sex of the child depends upon the 23rd pair of chromosomes. And it is the sperm which is responsible for deciphering the sex of the child. If it's X, it's a female. If it's an XY, it's a male. Quran has mentioned this 1400 years ago. In our society, especially in the Indian society, for reasons known best to them, people prefer having a male child. And suppose the daughter-in-law, if she gives birth to a female child, the mother-in-law normally blames the daughter-in-law. If the mother-in-law has to blame anyone, she should blame the son, not the daughter-in-law. Because the Holy Quran and science tells us that it is the male which is responsible for the sex of the child and not the female. The Quran describes the various embryological stages in great detail. In Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse number 12 to 14, it says, "We have created the human beings from a quintessence of clay, then made it into a drop, placed it into Qararim Makin, place of security, then made it into an alaqa, something which clings, a leech-like substance, made that alaqa into mudga, a chewed-like lump, made that mudga into izama, bones, then clothed the izama, bones, with lahm, that is flesh, and then made it into a creature. Blessed is he, the best to create." This verse of the Holy Quran, from 12 to 14 of Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, describe the embryological stages in great detail. It starts with saying, we have placed the nutfa, the minute quantity, into Qararim Makin, a place of security. Today, embryology tells us that the embryo is protected posteriorly by the backbone and the posterior muscles of the mother, anteriorly by the anterior abdominal wall, by the uterine wall, as well as the amniochorionic membrane. It continues. Then we made it into an alaqa, a leech-like substance, something which clings. The Arabic word alaqa has got three meanings: something which clings, a leech-like substance, as well as blood clot. Alhamdulillah, all three meanings are applicable here, because the embryo in the initial stages, it clings to the uterine wall of the mother. It looks like a leech, as confirmed by Professor Keith Moore. It also behaves like a leech. It behaves like a bloodsucker. It derives the blood supply and the nutrition from the mother. And at this stage, if an abortion takes place, the concept is, it looks like a blood clot. It looks like a blood clot as well as a leech. So Quran, in one word, it implies three meanings which all are applicable. Quran mentions this word alaqa no less than 6 times. Twice in Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse number 12 to 14. Surah Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 5. Surah Ghafir, chapter number 40, verse 67. Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse 38. As well as in Surah Iqra, chapter 96, verse number 2. 6 times it's mentioned. Previously, in the 17th century, people thought that the sperm, it evolved a miniature human being. A miniature human being was present in the head of the sperm, which later on developed into the uterus of the mother as a newborn baby. This was believed by Swammerdam, who proposed the perforation theory. Later on, when they discovered that the ovum is bigger than the sperm, De Graaf and others, they said, it is not the sperm which was a miniature human being, it is the ovum which was a miniature human being. Later on, Maupertus, in the 18th century, he proposed the biparental theory, that both are responsible, as the Quran says. Both the sperm and the ovum is responsible for the birth of the child. Quran says, we made that alaqa into a mudga. Mudga means chewed like lump, or something tacky which can be put in the mouth. So Professor Keith Moore said both these meanings are applicable because it is something tacky which can be put in the mouth. And later on, he took a plaster seal and bit it between his teeth to look like a mudga, a chewed-like lump. And he was astonished that the teeth marks resembled the somites from which develops the spinal column. The Quran says, we made that mudga into izaman, bones. We clothed the izaman with lahem, flesh and muscles. Allah says then, we create the al-nasha stage. We create a new creature. What does the Quran mean we have created a new creature? Science today tells us that the embryological stages of development, before this stage, in the rabbit, in the fish, in the other animals, it's similar to that of the human being. It's only at this stage of al-nasha that the particular characteristics of the human beings are seen, the head, the hands, and the feet. So Quran says, we have made a new creature. And ends by saying, blessed is he who's the best to create. Imagine, Quran gives the various embryological stages in great detail. There was the person who put forward an argument. It's nothing new. Maybe some Arab, he opened up the abdomen of a pregnant woman and checked the shapes and wrote in the Quran. He didn't realize that all these stages which the Quran describes, it cannot be observed with a naked human eye. You require a very powerful microscope. When Professor Marshall Johnson was asked to comment on these verses, he is the head of the Department of Anatomy in the Daniel Institute in Sir Jefferson's Hospital in Philadelphia, USA. He said, it can be possible that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he had a microscope and he observed it. Then he was reminded that microscope was not invented 400 years ago. So Professor Marshall Johnson laughed loudly and he said, yes, I know that. And I've seen the first microscope with my own eyes. It hardly enlarges to 10 times and the picture is not even clear. Then he said, these stages has to be a divine revelation. We were further asked to comment on the verse of the Quran from Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 5, which says, we have created the human beings from dust, then made it into an alaqa, made it into a mudga, partly formed and partly unformed. When you take an incision at this stage and analyze the embryo and cut up the internal organs, you'll find out that the internal organs at this particular stage, some of the organs are formed, while the other organs, they aren't formed. So Professor Marshall Johnson said, if I said that it is a complete creation, I'm only describing those organs which are formed. If I say it's an incomplete creation, I'm only describing those organs which are not formed. There can be no better description than the Holy Quran saying partly formed and partly unformed. Because some organs are formed, the others are not formed. Some cells are differentiated, the others are not differentiated. Professor Keith Moore said that today in embryology, we have got several stages of the embryological development. But it is so difficult to understand it because it has got numerical stages. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. The Quran bases the stages on shapes and prenatal development, which is far superior and easy than what modern embryology has done today. If the embryologists, they describe according to the stage of the Quran, it's far more easier for them to describe and understand than what modern embryology has done, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. The Quran says in Surah Abasa, chapter 80, verse 19 and 20, we have created the human beings from minute quantity, and we have made the passage of birth easy. People normally wondered that how can the birth canal, which hardly admits 3 to 4 fingers, how can a baby come out of it? The bony structure is so rigid, it has got ligaments. How is it possible? Quran says, Allah makes the pathway easy. And today we have come to know that how is it possible? Relaxin is being secreted by the ovaries and the placenta, which loosens the ligaments of the pelvic joints and softens the cervix. The uterine contraction that takes place, it pushes the baby downwards in the birth canal. The bag of water which ruptures, it provides a slippery surface for the baby to come out, to slide. And the various movements of the baby while birth facilitates the movement through the irregular pelvic joint. Quran says that Allah makes the pathway easy. Quran is giving you signs. It's showing you various embryological stages. Who could have described all these stages? They're asking you a question. Will you not then believe? Will you not then believe in the Holy Quran? The Quran says in Surah Sajda, chapter 32, verse number 9, we have given the human beings the faculty of hearing and sight. It's repeated in Surah Insan, chapter 76, verse number 2. We have given the faculty of hearing and sight to the human being. Today we have come to know the first sense to develop is the sense of hearing. Quran says first hearing, then sight. By the 5th month of pregnancy, it's complete the year. Later on, in the 7th month of pregnancy, the eye splits open. Imagine, Quran gives the order. First comes hearing, then comes sight. Professor Durga Rao, who's an expert in the field of marine geology, who's teaching in the University of King Abdulaziz in Jeddah, he was asked to give his comments on a verse of the Holy Quran from Surah Nur, chapter 24, verse number 40, which says that the state of the unbeliever is like the depth of darkness in a vast, deep ocean, overwhelmed with waves topped with dark clouds. The depths of darkness, one layered over the other. When a man stretches out his hand, he can hardly see it. Allah gives light to who he wishes. If he does not give light, you cannot see. Professor Durga Rao, he said that this verse of the Holy Quran is not speaking about a normal sea. It's speaking about a deep sea. And today, only with the help of things like submarine, we have come to know the depths of the ocean is dark. Previously, we did not know that. Because a man cannot go unaided more than 20 to 30 meters underwater. And if he goes more than 200 meters unaided, he dies. It's today we have come to know, by the instruments that we have, that the depths of ocean is dark. And he said, this darkness is due to two phenomena. First is due to successive absorption of the color in layers. As we all know, the light has got 7 colors. And we learned in school, for remembering easy, Vibgyor, the colors of the rainbow, Vibgyor. V for violet, I for indigo, B for blue, G for green, Y for yellow, O for orange, red, R for red. Vibgyor, 7 colors. Professor Durga Rao said that when the light enters the ocean, by the first 15 to 20 meters, the red color is absorbed. And if a man goes underwater about 30 meters deep, and if he bleeds, if he has a wound, he will not be able to see his own blood because red color does not reach there. Later on, 30 to 50 meter absorbs orange. Yellow is absorbed by next 50 to 100 meters. Green by 100 to 200 meters. And blue beyond 200 meters. And violet and indigo much above 200 meters. Therefore, the layers of darkness you see in the ocean is due to the absorption of light in successive layers. The second reason for these layers, Professor Durga Rao said, is due to barriers, like the clouds. When the sunlight hits the cloud absorbs the light. Therefore, there is darkness below the cloud. Then the light is scattered. After getting scattered, it hits at the superficial waves of the ocean. This is the second barrier. The waves reflect the light further, the superficial waves of the ocean. Those light rays which are not reflected, they enter the ocean. Therefore, you have two types of layers in the ocean, the superficial layer and the deep layer. The superficial layer is warm and lit up. The deep layers, they are dark. And this superficial and deep layer of the ocean, it is divided by internal waves. We human beings did not know that even there were internal waves. We only knew of superficial waves. It was only in 1900 that we have come to know that there are even waves deep in the water. They are known as internal waves, which divide the superficial part of the ocean and the deep part of the ocean. Imagine, the Quran mentions that. The unbeliever's state is like the depths of darkness in a vast, deep ocean, overwhelmed with waves topped with waves. That means deep waves are there, internal waves are there, topped with superficial waves. And it further continues, topped with dark clouds. The clouds are the barriers. And even the cloud line layers. And when a man stretches out his hand, he can hardly see it. Only if Allah gives light can they see. Even the fish that swim in the deep part of the ocean, they cannot see unless they have their own light with them. They have their own light with them. Even the submarine that goes underwater, it carries its own light, otherwise they cannot see underwater. So when Prophet Durga Rao was asked, how come this is mentioned in the Quran 14 years ago? He said, it's impossible for any human being to mention this verse. This Quran has to be a divine revelation. The Holy Quran says in Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse number 3 and 4. The unbelievers ask that how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be able to reassemble our bones? Allah says, we can not only reassemble the bones, we can even reconstruct in perfect order the very fingertips. When the unbelievers say, after we are buried, after our bones have got disintegrated, how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment reassemble our bones? So Allah says, He will not only be able to reassemble the bones, He can even reconstruct your very fingertip in perfect order. It's referring to the fingerprinting method, which was discovered by Sir Francis Gould in 1880. And he said that no two fingerprints of two individuals are equal even in a million people. No wonder the police, the CID, the CIA, the FBI, they use fingerprinting method to identify the culprit. Quran speaks about that 14 years ago. Allah can not only reassemble the bones, He can even reconstruct in perfect order the very fingertips. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you in Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse 82, أَفَلَا يَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do not you consider the Quran with care. Do not you ponder over the Quran with care. That if it had been from anyone besides Allah, there would have been many contradictions. There would have been many discrepancies. Quran is giving you a challenge. Here is the Holy Quran. Try and take out a single discrepancy. Try and take out a single fault in the Holy Quran. It's giving you a challenge, an open challenge. Why don't you analyze the Quran with care? Had it been from anyone besides Allah, there would have been many contradictions. I would like to end my talk by giving the example of Prophet Zakir Naik. Previously, the doctors, they thought that only the brain was responsible for feeling of pain. It's now we have come to know that there are certain receptors in the skin called as pain receptors which are also responsible for feeling of pain. No wonder. When a patient of burn injury comes to a doctor, he takes a pin and he pricks it in that area. If the patient feels pain, doctor is very happy. It means it's a superficial burn. The pain receptors are intact. If he does not feel pain, it's a deep burn. The pain receptors have been destroyed. The Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 56, as to those who reject our signs, we shall cast them into the hellfire. And as often as their skins are roasted, we shall give them fresh skins so that they shall feel the pain. Quran says if your skin is roasted, we shall give you fresh skin so that you will feel the pain. Giving an indication there is something in the skin which is responsible for the feeling of pain. Indication to the pain receptors. When Professor Takata Takashan, who is the head of the Department of Anatomy in Chiang Mai University in Thailand, he was given the translation of this verse, and he has spent a lot of time in doing research on pain receptors. He said it's impossible that Quran can mention this. We discovered it recently. How is it possible? He did not agree with it. Later on, after checking with the Holy Quran, after verifying the Holy Quran, he was so impressed that in the 8th Medical Saudi Conference in Riyadh, in the conference, he said the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God but Allah, and Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Kausar Sheikh, a product of Darul Quran, Kuwait. Presently, I am teaching Arabic in Anushakti Nagar. My question is, it is mentioned in the Quran that one day in the sight of Allah is equal to 1,000 years. And in another place, it is mentioned that one day is equal to 50,000 years. Isn't the Quran contradicting itself? Please explain.
Assalamu alaikum, Zakir bhai. My name is Shakir and I'm a mechanical engineer student. I would like to ask you a question that how can you prove to an atheist scientifically the existence of God?
The first thing I will do is that I will congratulate that atheist. I'll congratulate him. You know why? If you look around us, he's a Hindu because father is a Hindu. He's a Christian because father is a Christian. Some Muslims are Muslims because their fathers are Muslim. This person, though he may be coming from a religious background, he does not believe in the false God which his parents attribute to. So he does not believe in God. I'm congratulating him because he's accepted the first part of the Shahada, the first part of the Islamic creed, La ilaha, there is no God. Now my job is to prove illallah, but Allah, which I shall do inshallah.
At one place, the Holy Quran states that man is created from sperm, which is inconsistent with modern science. But at another place, it also states that man is made from dust. Now, isn't the Holy Quran contradicting itself? Or is it consistent with modern science?
Quran in several places has mentioned that the heavens and the earth were created in 6 days. But in Surah Fusilat, it says the heaven and the earth was created in 8 days. Isn't this a contradiction? And the same verse also says that the earth was created in 6 days and then later on the heaven in 2 days. This is against the Big Bang theory, that the heavens and earth were created simultaneously.
With regard to the evolution of Homo sapiens, you have Charles Darwin in Science giving an explanation that it's because of the process of natural selection that the human beings have evolved. Now this seems to be in contradiction with the Islamic belief that we are the children of Adam alayhi salam. Now how can this be reconciled?
I have not come across any book which says fact of evolution. All the books say theory of evolution. There's no book I've come across saying fact of evolution. If I have to insult someone, that if you were present at Darwin's time, this theory would have been proved right. Trying to insinuate that he looks like an ape. It's a joke we make.
In the Quran, it is stated that the hearts of the unbelievers are sealed. But according to science, it is the brain that thinks and not the heart. Your comment, please.
When Quran speaks so much about science, then how come the Muslims are so backward in the field of science?
I do agree with you. Today, the Muslims are getting backward in science. You know why? The Europeans are being advanced. You know why? The Muslims are becoming backward because they are going away from the Holy Quran. They are going away from the religion. And do you know why the Europeans are getting advanced? They too are going away from the religion.
I'm a student of Sabasitik. My name is Harsh Waghela. I want to ask a question that after the death of human being, dead body should be burned out or should be buried?
it is mentioned in one verse of the Quran that Allah is the Lord of the two east and two west. How can you explain this verse of the Quran scientifically? Now we would be having the question and answer session. To derive more benefit for all of those present here, in the limited time that we have available, we would like the following rules to be observed. Your questions asked should be on the topic of the day, Quran and modern science, conflict or conciliation only. Questions not relevant to the topic will not be entertained. Kindly state your questions briefly and to the point. This is question answer time and not lecture time. Only one question at a time will be permitted. For your second question, you would have to go behind the row and await your second chance. We have 3 mics provided on the ground, 2 on my sides, right side 1, left side 1. These are for the gents. And we have 1 behind in the center in the ladies section for the ladies. I am told there are people watching this program in the Alma Latifi Hall, which is full, on the video screen. I would request those brothers, if they have any questions, to kindly come down in the ground. The volunteers present at your end would assist you in it. We will allow only 1 question on each of the mics in clockwise rotation. First, the ladies. Second, the gent on my right. Third, the gents on my left. And so on in clockwise manner. Written questions on papers or slips which are available from our volunteers in the aisles would be given secondary preference after the open questions on the mics are answered by Dr. Zakir. In the interest of having a less time wasting, a more educative and an interesting question and answer session, our decision to allow or disallow irrelevant questions will be final. In the interest of eliciting a proper and clear answer from the speaker, kindly state your name and profession before putting forward your question so his answer can be more appropriate to your understanding. May we have the first question from the ladies section.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Kausar Sheikh, a product of Darul Quran, Kuwait. Presently, I am teaching Arabic in Anushakti Nagar. My question is, it is mentioned in the Quran that one day in the sight of Allah is equal to 1,000 years. And in another place, it is mentioned that one day is equal to 50,000 years. Isn't the Quran contradicting itself? Please explain.
The sister asked a question that it's mentioned in the Quran, in certain place, that one day in the sight of Allah is equal to 1,000 years, and somewhere else it's mentioned that one day in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is equal to 50,000 years. Isn't this a contradiction? What the sister was referring to is a verse of the Holy Quran from Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 47, as well as Surah Sajda, chapter 32, verse number 5, which does say that one day in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is equal to 1,000 years. And in Surah Marij, chapter 70, verse number 4, it says that one day in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is equal to 50,000 years of your reckoning. Doesn't it seem to be a contradiction? Sister, what these verses in the Holy Quran are referring to, it is giving you an indication that time in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is incomparable to the earthly time. The earthly time, whether it's 1,000 years, or whether it's 50,000 years, or whether it's thousands of years, it's somewhat equal to 1 day in the sight of Allah, or maybe 1 second in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just giving you a reference that time in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is incomparable to the earthly time. But even if you want to take these verses literally, still there's an explanation for that. The Arabic word used in these verses is yom. It has got two different meanings. It can either be translated as day or as period or as epoch, very long period. So if you read this verse of Surah Sajda, chapter 32, verse number 5, it says, it is Allah who rules the affairs from the heavens to the earth. And all these go up to Him on a day, which is equal to 1,000 years of reckoning. If you translate the word correctly, yom, as period, it will read that Allah rules all the affairs from the heavens to the earth, and all of them go unto Him in a period which is equal to 1,000 years of your reckoning. Surah Ma'arij chapter 70, verse number 4 reads that the spirits and the angels, they ascend unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a day which is equal to 50,000 years of your reckoning. If you translate it correctly, yom as period, it will read that the spirits and the angels ascend unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a period equal to 50,000 years. The Quran is referring to two different periods. Therefore, there's no contradiction. For example, if I say, I will take 1 hour to reach Washi, I will take a period of 1 hour to reach Washi. And then say, I will take a period of 50 hours to reach Srinagar, to reach Kashmir. It's not contradicting because both are different periods. So one place Quran says the period required for all the spirits and the angels to go up unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is equal to 50,000 years of your reckoning. And the other place says the period required for all the affairs to go unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is 1,000 years. There's no contradiction in that. I hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum Zakir bhai. My name is Shakir and I'm a mechanical engineer student. I would like to ask you a question that how can you prove to an atheist scientifically the existence of God?
The brothers pose the question, how can you scientifically prove the existence of God Almighty, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Especially to an atheist who does not believe in God. The first thing I will do is that I will congratulate that atheist. I'll congratulate him. You know why? If you look around us, he's a Hindu because father is a Hindu. He's a Christian because father is a Christian. Some Muslims are Muslim because their fathers are Muslim. This person, though he may be coming from a religious background, he does not believe in the false God which his parents attribute to. So he does not believe in God. I'm congratulating him because he's accepted the first part of the Shahada, the first part of the Islamic creed, La ilaha, there is no God. Now my job is to prove illallah, but Allah, which I shall do inshallah. To the other people, I have to first remove the wrong concept of God and then prove the right concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here half my job is done. He has already said La ilaha. There's no God. Now I have to prove illallah, but Allah, which I shall do inshallah. You ask this atheist that suppose there is an object, an unidentified, maybe a flying object, which no one in the world has seen. No human being in the world knows about this object. If it's brought in front of you, and if you're asked that who will be the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of this unidentified object, you have to ask him the question. Who is the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of this new object which no one in the world has seen? After thinking for a while, he'll give the answer. The person who will be able to tell you the mechanism, the first person, is the creator of that object. Some may say manufacturer, some may say producer. Whatever they say, don't grapple with the word, accept it. It will be somewhat similar, either creator or producer or manufacturer. But remember what he has told you. Keep it in your mind. Then ask him the next question. How did the universe come into existence? How was it formed? He will tell you by the Big Bang Theory. Tell him the Quran mentions in Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 30, about the Big Bang Theory. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 1400 years ago? So he will tell you, maybe it's a fluke. Don't argue with him. Next part of the question. We did not know the light of the moon is reflected light. We came to know recently. You ask him, he'll tell you, yes, yes. The light of the moon is reflected light. It's not its own light. When we discovered, he will tell you recently, yesterday, 50 years back, 100 years back, yesterday in science. You tell him, the Quran mentions that the light of the moon is reflected light 1400 years ago. Who could have mentioned that? Maybe somebody had a wild guess. Don't argue with him. Continue. We thought the sun was stationary. You ask him, is it stationary? He'll say, no, it's rotating and revolving. When you learn this, he will tell you yesterday, 50 years back, 20 years back. Quran mentions this 1400 years ago. He will hesitate, but may say, maybe some intelligent person wrote it. Don't argue with him. Continue. How was the universe initially? What is celestial matter? He will tell you, it was smoke. How did you come to know? We have got proof, we have got evidence. You tell him, Quran mentioned this 14 years ago. Who could have mentioned that? He will hesitate. Don't wait for response. Continue. Keep on posing question after question. All that I give in the lecture, keep on posing one question after the other. That water cycle, how do we come to know about it? Quran mentioned 14 years ago. About every living thing made from water. Who could have mentioned that? Quran speaks about botany, the male and female. Who could have mentioned that? Pose one after the other and ask the question, who could have written that? Then you tell him that there is a theory known as theory of probability. That if you have two choices, out of which one is right, the chances that you will make the correct choice just at random is 1 in 2. For example, if I toss a coin, it can either be heads or tails. The chances that I'll be right will be 1 in 2. If I toss it twice, the chances that I'll be right both the times will be 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2, that is 1 upon 4, 25% chance. If I toss it thrice, chances I'll be right all 3 times, 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 2, it's 1 upon 8, 12.5%. A dice has got 6 sides. If I throw a dice, the chances that at random I'll be correct is 1 upon 6. If I throw it twice, the chances that both the time I'll be right will be 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 6, 1 upon 36. This is called as theory of probability. If I throw the dice twice and then toss a coin, all 3 being right will be 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 6 by 1 upon 2 is 1 upon 72. So you ask him, the chances may be, if you ask, what is the shape of the earth? There are various shapes. Some may say it is flat, some may say it is triangular, some may say it is hexagonal, some may say pentagonal, some may say heptagonal, some may say square. Say there can be 10 shapes. Some may say it is round, it is spherical. The chances that if anyone makes a wild guess, it being correct, is 1 upon 10. The light of the moon, it can either be its own light or it can be reflected light. The chances that you make a wild guess and it being correct will be 1 upon 2. The chances that both shape of the earth and light of the moon being reflected light, both being correct, if you make a wild guess, it will be 1 upon 10 multiplied by 1 upon 2, it is 1 upon 20. What can the living creatures be made of? Some may say sand, some may say stone, some may say aluminium, some may say gold, say 1,000 materials you can name. Some may say water, some may say silver, 1,000 materials. The chances that you make a wild guess and one of them being right, according to mathematics, is 1 upon 1,000. The chances that all three being correct, the earth is spherical, light of the moon is reflected light, and every living creature created from water is correct, will be 1 upon 10 multiplied by 1 upon 2 multiplied by 1 upon 1000. Answer comes to 1 upon 20,000 or 0.005%. Quran speaks about scientific science more than 1,000 verses. In 3 verses, the answer comes to 0.05%. If you apply probability theory to all this being at random chance, it will come to 0, negligible. And in maths, anything 1 in 10 raised to 50, it's equal to 0. So you ask your atheist friend, who could have written this? The only answer he can give you is this first answer, the creator, the manufacturer, the person who has produced it. That's the only answer. There's no other answer. What science is saying today is they are not eliminating God. They are eliminating models of God. La ilaha illallah. They are not eliminating God, but models of God. I hope that answers the question.
My name is Javed, and I'm a student. I would like to ask a question. At one place, the Holy Quran states that man is created from sperm, which is inconsistent with modern science. But at another place, it also states that man is made from dust. Now, isn't the Holy Quran contradicting itself? Or is it consistent with modern science?
The brother posed the question that one place the Holy Quran says that human beings have been created from sperm, which consists with modern science. The other place, human being is created from dust. Can you prove it scientifically it's created from dust? And isn't there a contradiction? One place sperm, one place it says dust. The Holy Quran does say, as I mentioned in my talk, in Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse number 37 to 39, it says that human beings have been created from sperm, which has been proved by science. The Holy Quran also says in Surah Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 5, that we have created the human beings from a quintessence of dust. Today science tells us that all the elements that are there in the human body, they are present in lesser or greater quantity in the soil, in the earth. So the statement that human beings have been created from earth is scientifically proven. That whatever components are there in the human body, the constituent, the elements, they are present in the earth, in the soil, in lesser or greater proportion. The second part of the question, isn't it a contradiction? One place the Quran says man is created from sperm, one says from dust. Is it a contradiction? See, a contradiction is two statements which are conflicting with each other, which cannot take place simultaneously. The Quran does not only say man has been created from sperm and the other place from dust. It also says in Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse 54, that man has been created from water. You will tell me there are three contradictions. See, science has proven that man has been created from dust, as well as from sperm, as well as from water. If I tell you in one statement that to make a cup of tea, I require water. In the second statement I say, to make a cup of tea, I require tea leaves or tea powder. It's not a contradiction. I require both. If I want to make sweet tea, I add sugar to it. If I want to make panikam tea, I add less water and more milk. If I want to make Suleimani tea, I add only water. So there is no contradiction when the Quran says human being is created from sperm and dust and water. It is actually contradistinction. What is the meaning of contradistinction? Contradistinction means speaking two or more things about a subject which are not conflicting with each other. For example, if I say that this man, he's honest, he's kind and loving, it is contradistinction. But if I say this man is always a liar and a truthful person, then it's contradiction. because both are opposing. If it's not opposing, it's called as contradistinction.
Next question from the ladies section.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. My name is Farida Ansari. I am a laboratory technician. Quran says Allah is the creator of the human being. Does science agree with it?
The sister posed a question that the Quran mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the human beings. Does science agree with it? And Quran says in several places, including the last verse of the embryological stages, that is Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, verse number 14, that Allah is the best to create. Can we prove it scientifically that Allah is the creator? Quran gives the answer. Quran gives the answer in Surah Tur, chapter 52, verse number 35. It poses a question that were you created from nothing? See, the Arabic word used for creator in all these verses of the Quran is khaliq. It is derived from the Arabic word khalaqa. Arabic word khalaqa has got 4 meanings. One meaning is to create something from nothing without any previous example. That's only possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second meaning of khalaqa is to create something new from pre-existing material. The third meaning is of khalaqa, programming or planning. And the last meaning is to make smooth. So Quran poses the question in Surah Tur, chapter 52, verse 35, that were you created from nothing? But naturally the answer is negative. No. Human beings aren't created from nothing. They pose the next question. Were you the creators or we the creators? We know very well that man cannot create another man. If he could do that, then the moment he died, he would have created himself back. If his relatives would have died, he would have brought them back to life. Human beings can't even create a living creature such as fly, live aside human being. Neither can you attribute the organs of the body, say the reproductive organs, like testes or ovaries, that they are the cause for a creation. Because if you say that the testes, the uterus, etc. are the cause, then you have to include your ancestors, their reproductive system, their ancestors, all are responsible. So the answer is negative. Quran poses the next question in Surah Waqia, chapter 56, verse number 58 and 59, that do you not look at the sperm you have emitted? Were you the creator or we the creator? And but natural, all these questions that Quran poses, the answer is negative. Some people can say it's by chance. By chance we were created. They say nature, natural thing. It happened by chance. Let's analyze scientifically whether the human beings can be created by chance. The protein molecule is a very important structure of the living cell. Very important part in the living structure of the cell. The protein molecule consists of 5 elements: the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and sulfur. And there are tens and thousands of atoms required to make one molecule. One atom has 5 elements: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, and sulfur. There are tens of thousands of atoms which make one protein molecule. And there are approximately 92 free elements. The chances that out of these 92, the 5 will form an atom, and these atoms will form tens and thousands of atoms to form one protein molecule was calculated by Frank Alien. And he said the chances are 1 in 10 raised to 160. You know what is the meaning of 1 in 10 raised to 160? If I say 1 in 10 raised to 2, 10 raised to 2 means 100, 2 zeros. 1 in 100, chances 1%. If I say 1 in 10 raised to 3, it means 1 in 1,000. That's 0.1%. If I say 1 in 10 raised to 4, it means 1 in 10,000. Means 0.01%. So when the calculation was made, 1 in 10 raised to 160, it means 0.00000, 157 zeros, then 1. And mathematics tells anything 1 in raised to 10 raised to 50, it's counted as 0. Furthermore, this is talking about one molecule, and the substance required to form this one molecule of protein was calculated by another person, Charles Guy, that it will require millions of times of substance as huge as our galaxies. Millions of galaxies will require to form this one molecule of protein. And the time was calculated by Charles Guy. The time taken for one protein molecule to be formed will be 10 raised to 263 years. You know what is that? 1000000, 263 zeros it will take to form one protein molecule. And do you know there are how many protein molecules in one cell? And do you know how many other molecules are there in the cell? And how many cells are there in the human being? There are more than 6 billion molecules when a child is born. That's what doctors tell us today. 6 billion. One protein molecule takes 1 in 10 raised to 160 chances. Time taken is 10 raised to 243 years. To take 6 billion for one baby, imagine. And how many women are pregnant? There are millions of women pregnant at a time. And it takes only 9 months. The chances science tells us is 0, 0, 0. No chance at all. These things cannot take by chance. They have to be programmed by someone. Science tells us there has to be someone, some supernatural force. Therefore, science, as I said earlier, is not eliminating God, it is eliminating models of God. La ilaha illallah. Hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ashfaq and I'm a student. My question is, Quran in several places has mentioned that the heavens and the earth were created in 6 days. But in Surah Fusilat, it says the heaven and the earth was created in 8 days. Isn't this a contradiction? And the same verse also says that the earth was created in 6 days and then later on the heaven in 2 days. This is against the Big Bang theory, that the heavens and earth were created simultaneously.
Well, that posed a very important question. The Quran says the heavens and the earth were created in 6 days. When Surah Fusilat it says 8 days. Isn't there a contradiction? And also contradiction with the Big Bang theory. I do agree with you, brother. The Quran says in several places that the heavens and the earth were created in 6 days. In several places. In Surah Araf chapter 7 verse number 54. In Surah Yunus chapter 10 verse number 3. In Surah Hud chapter 11 verse number 7. In Surah Furqan chapter 25 verse number 59. In Surah Sajda chapter 32 verse number 4. In Surah Hadith chapter 57 verse number 4. In several places the Quran says the heavens and the earth were created in 6 days. It's not the earthly days. It is ayams, very long periods, which scientists have got no objection to. And I also agree with you that the Quran does speak about the creation of the heavens and the earth in Surah Fusilat. The verse you are referring to, brother, is verses 9 to 12, which says that, do you not believe in the one who has created the earth in 2 days? And do you join equals with him? Do you join partners with him, who is the Lord of the worlds? Verse number 10 says, he has set on the earth mountains standing firm and given due nourishment on the earth in 4 days. Verse number 11 says, moreover in his design he comprehended the sky when it was smoke, and he said to it and the earth, come ye together willingly or unwillingly? And they said, we come together in willing obedience. This he did in 2 days. So if you read it just without thinking, 2 plus 4 plus 2 is 8 days. Quran gives the answer in the starting of the verse, that it says that all those who will take out this fault, they are equal to those people who will join partners to God. Means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that there will be people who will take out fault in the Quran in this verse, they will be the mushriks. And today, this verse is commonly used by the Christian missionaries against the Muslims. If you go around, I've been traveling in the world, this question was posed to me even there. The Christian missionaries, they pose this question. Quran says, it predicts that people will ask about this question. And these people will be those who associate partners with God. Let's analyze. The first two verses, that is Surah Fussilat, chapter 41, verse 9 and 10, says that the earth was created in 2 days. And then mountains were set on it. And nourishment was given in due proportion in 4 days. So it says, 2 days the earth was formed, mountains were set on it afterwards. In 4 days, total comes to 6 days. Then verse number 11 starts with the Arabic word summa. Now the Arabic word summa can be translated in 3 different ways. One is then, one is moreover, and the other is simultaneously. I do know that many translations have translated the Arabic word summa as then. If you translate summa as then there is a contradiction. It says, then the heavens were made in 2 days. That means 2 plus 4 plus 2 is equal to 8 days. But the exact translation should be, summa should be translated as moreover or simultaneously. And Abdullah Yusuf Ali, alhamdulillah, in this place has translated summa correctly as moreover. So if you translate summa as moreover or simultaneously, it will mean that when the earth and the mountains were created in 6 days, simultaneously the heavens were created in 2 days. For example, suppose a builder, he gives in his brochure that I have constructed a 10-story building along with its surrounding and compound wall in 6 months. When a person wants to buy a flat in that building, he goes to the builder and he asks for more detail. So the builder says, it took me 2 months to make the basement of the building and another 4 months to make the 10-story. And while I was building the basement and the story, I simultaneously built the compound wall and the surrounding in 2 months. It's possible. So then he's not contradicting. Total comes to, yes, 6 months. So similarly, when Surah Fussilat chapter 41 verse number 9 to 12, it says that while the earth was created along with the mountains in 6 days, simultaneously the heavens was created in 2 days. There's no contradiction. And similarly, if you take then, it contradicts with science. Because earth was created first, then were created the mountains. It's contradicting. Similarly, Quran speaks in Surah Baqarah chapter 2, verse 29, that Allah made the earth, summa the heavens. But unfortunately here, Abdullah Yusuf Ali has translated summa wrongly as then. In verse 29 of Surah Baqarah chapter 2, he translates summa as then. Allah created the earth and then the heaven. Then there's a contradiction. Even here, summa should be translated as moreover or simultaneously. If it's translated simultaneously, then it's not a contradiction. Because the Big Bang theory tells us that the earth and the heavens were created simultaneously. No wonder. In the Quran says in many places, we created the heavens and the earth. In other places it says, we created the earth and the heavens. Giving evidence to the verse of the Quran of Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 21 verse number 30, it says, Avalam yara alladhina kafaru anna samawati wal arda kanat ratkan fataknahuma. That do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together and we clove them asunder.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ghulam Muhammad. I appreciate your explanation about the bisexual reproduction in animals. And my question is, can you support this change of sexes in animals and plants with the change of nutrient and environment with the chronic versions and also the production of fruits without fertilization?
That's right. Brother has asked a very good question.
Thank you.
He's asked a question that scientifically can you prove that there are certain plants he mentioned. And I can mention more few also, bananas and papaya, the bisexual plants. So if you heard in my talk, brother, I made a statement that even the bisexual plants, they have got distinct characteristics of male and female. Regarding a question of fruits, if you analyze the fruit is the product of reproduction, is the end product of reproduction of superior plants. The stage before fruit is the stage of flower. The flowers have got both male and female, stamen and ovules. Only after the pollen comes there do you get fruit, and then the fruit gives off seed, etc. These are known as parthenocarpic fruits. Even in these, there is distinct characteristic of male and female, and the Quran rightly says in Surah Ra, chapter 13, verse number 3, that we have created fruits in pairs, in twos and twos. Hope that answers the question.
I'm Farzana Mullah. My question is, with regard to the evolution of Homo sapiens, you have Charles Darwin in Science giving an explanation that it's because of the process of natural selection that the human beings have evolved. Now this seems to be in contradiction with the Islamic belief that we are the children of Adam alayhi salam. Now how can this be reconciled?
This is a very important question. No lecture of mine on this topic of Quran modern science is complete without this question. I've given this talk in various places, in Canada, in USA, in UK, in Saudi. Never is this topic complete, never is the question answer complete without this important question of theory of evolution. Charles Darwin. Sister posed the question, how can you reconcile the Quran with Darwin's theory of evolution? Sister, I have not come across any book which says fact of evolution. All the books say theory of evolution. There is no book I have come across saying fact of evolution. If you read the book by Charles Darwin, The Origin of Species, it says that Charles Darwin went on an island by the name of Calotropis on a ship named as HMS Beagle. And there he found birds pecking at niches. Depending upon the ecological niches they pecked, the beaks, kept on becoming long and short. This observation was made in the same species, not in different species. Charles Darwin wrote a letter to his friend Thomas Thompson in 1861 saying, I do not believe in natural selection, the word that you used. I don't believe in theory of evolution because I've got any proof. I only believe in it because it helps me in classification of embryology, in morphology, in rudimentary organs. Charles Darwin himself said that there were missing links. He didn't agree with it. He himself said that there were missing links. Therefore, if I have to insult someone, that if you were present at Darwin's time, this theory would have been proved right, trying to insinuate that he looks like an ape. It's a joke we make. The reason that this theory, in most parts of the world, it is taught as good as fact. You know why? Even when I was in school, I learned about Darwin's theory. And even today they are taught. You know what the reason is, sister? The reason is because that if you analyze the church was against science previously. And you know the incidents that they sentenced Galileo to death. They sentenced Galileo to death. Why? Because he said certain statements in astronomy, etc., which went against the Bible, so they sentenced him to death, for which the Pope apologized now. So, when Charles Darwin came up with a theory which goes against the Bible, they didn't want any sufficient proof. An enemy of my enemy is my friend. So all the scientists, most of them, they support the theory because it went against the Bible, not because it was true. They only supported it because it went against the Bible. All the stages we have mentioned, sister, all the stages, Lucy, there were 4 hominids. Science tells us today there's 4 hominids. First is Lucy, along with its guide, the Australopithecus, which died about 3.5 million years, the Ice Age. Then next came the Homo sapiens, who died about 500,000 years ago. Then came the Neanderthal man, who died 100 to 40,000 years ago. Then came the 4th stage, the Cro-Magnon. There is no link at all between these stages. According to P.P. Grasset, in 1971, who held the chair of evolutionary studies in Paris, in the Sorbonne University, he said, it is absurd. We cannot say who are ancestors based on fossils. I can give you a list of hundreds of scientists and Nobel Prize winners who speak against Darwin's theory. hundreds. If you know of Sir Albert Georgi, who got the Nobel Prize for inventing the vitamin C, he wrote a book, The Crazy Ape and Man, against Darwin's theory. Again, if you read Sir Fred Hoyle's works, he wrote several works against Darwin's theory. If you know about Rupert Stalbert, this person wrote a new theory of evolution against Darwin's theory. It's unthinkable. You cannot think that we are created from the apes. If you know of Sir Frank Salisbury, he was a biologist. He said it is illogical to believe in Darwin's theory. If you know about Whitemead, Sir Whitemead, he wrote a book against Darwin's theory. He was also a biologist. Several, you can give a list of hundreds. Today it is taught in the schools. Why? I told you. Media is in their hand. Otherwise, there is no proof at all. There are certain proofs at lower levels. An amoeba at lower species level, amoeba can change to paramecia. Quran does not say amoeba cannot change to paramecia. Quran does not say. If they have got proof, can be possible. It's not against the Quran. But there is no proof at all. People talk about molecular biology theory. They talk about genetic coding. According to Francis Crick, who's authority in this field, he said it is unimaginable. Again, if you do that ratio, the probability of one DNA forming from ape to human being is again 0. If I start calculating, I think we'll get bored again. You know the calculation I told you for one protein molecule? It is somewhat similar from one DNA. It is not possible at all. You know, there's a theory recently that homosexuality is genetic. And when I read in the Times of India, I thought, surely, the moment I attend the next lecture on Sunday in IRF, I'll be asked this question. If homosexuality is genetic, how can Allah blame us? Quran speaks against homosexuality. And I said that, see, this is a theory. Wait till it gets established. It's a theory. Don't comment on that. Within the matter of span of this few months, it was proved to be illogical. And the person who propounded this theory that homosexuality is genetic himself was an homosexual. Therefore I said, I'm going to give my talk on scientific facts, not on theories and assumptions. Darwin's theory has not been proven. We have not been created from ape. There are hundreds of scientists who speak against that, and Quran speaks against that also. Quran says the first man was Adam, peace be upon him. Inshallah, they'll discover it 100 years afterwards, or maybe 1,000 years afterwards. Today there is research showing that human beings have been created from one pair. Again, it's just a theory. It supports the Quranic verse that human beings have been created from one pair, male and female. It's just a theory. Therefore, I don't quote that in my talk. Inshallah, it will be established 50 years afterwards or 100 years afterwards. Then we'll know that Quran conciliates with this part. So far, it's not conflicting. It's not conflicting with established science at all. Hope that answers the question.
The next question.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Abdul Samim. I'm a student. In the Quran, it is stated that the hearts of the unbelievers are sealed. But according to science, it is the brain that thinks and not the heart. Your comment, please.
The brother posed a question that the Quran says that the unbelievers' hearts have been sealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today science tells us it's the brain that thinks and not the heart, and I do agree with him. So even the Quran unscientific when it says that the heart has been sealed, and I do agree Quran says that in several places, including Surah Baqarah, chapter 2, verse number 7, that Allah has sealed the hearts of the kafir people. It says that. The seal has been put on the hearts. If you know the Arabic word used here is qalb. The Arabic word qalb has got two meanings. One is heart and the other is intelligence. So if you translate correctly, the word says Allah has sealed the intelligence of the unbelievers. And it's scientifically proven that intelligence has to be sealed, not the organic heart. But there was a person who once posed me the question, Dr Zakir, I agree with you that qalb means heart as well as intelligence. But one verse in the Quran says the hearts are behind the breast. Then what do you have to give the answer for that? And he was quoting a verse of the Quran from Surah Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 46, which says that their eyes are not blind. It is the heart which is in their breast which is blind. So Quran says the eyes are not blind. It is the heart which is within the breast which is blind. Today science tells us I see, heart cannot see. So isn't this verse unscientific? Here the translation has to be heart. It can't be intelligence. So I tell him, I agree with you, the heart has got two translations. But the word used for breast is sadar. Sadar. Sadar also has got two meanings. One is breast and the other is center. You know how we have the head of an institution, we say sadar of the institution. Like how we have center, if you have been to Pakistan, how in India we have choke. Over there they have centers. Sadar so and so in Pakistan. Center so and so. Sadar also means center. So the correct translation is, the eyes is not which is blind. It is the intelligence which is within the center which is blind. Same, I started my talk by quoting a verse of the Holy Quran from Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse number 25 or 28, which says, Rabbish rahli sadri. O my Lord, increase my breast for me. Rabbish rahli sadri wa yassir li amri wa halul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. This was a dua made by Musa alayhi salam when he was asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go and deliver the message to the people. He asked Allah, oh my Lord, increase my breast for me. See, breast is not the correct translation. What's the breast got to do with this message? It means, oh my Lord, increase my center for me. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, and make my task easy for me. Wahalul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli, and remove the impediment from my speech, so that they will understand me. As you know, Musa alayhi salam was a stammerer. And if you know, whether fortunately or unfortunately, even I happen to be a stammerer. In childhood I was a stammerer. Therefore, at the beginning of every talk, and even the beginning of this talk, I said, and I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbi shrah li sadri. Oh my Lord, increase my center for me. I'm asking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Increase my center and remove the stuttering in my speech. Even today, when I don't speak on the stage, I yet stutter. It's Allah who helps me out on the stage. Rabbi shrah li sadri. Oh my Lord, increase my center for me. Make my task easy for me and remove the barrier from my speech and between me and the audience, so that they will understand me. Therefore, scientifically, if you analyze the work of Surah Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 46, it says it is not the eyes which are blind. It is the intelligence which is within the center is blind. Because they are not blind, the unbelievers can see. Saying they are blind is unscientific. Like the Quran says in Surah Baqarah, chapter 2, verse number 18, it says that deaf, dumb, the blind, they will not return to the path. Summum, bukmun, umyun fahum la yarjiun. The deaf, the dumb, the blind, they will not return to the path. It's not talking about physical deaf people. It's talking about unbelievers who are hearing, they cannot hear. Seeing the signs of Allah, they don't accept the Quran. So, Quran is more scientific. It says correctly, they can see. The eyes are not blind. It is the intelligence within the center which is blind.
The next question from my brother on my left.
Assalamu alaikum to everybody who are present here. My name is Kalim Shah. I'm practicing interior designing in Bombay. Quran have given all the minute details of embryology. Apart from a miracle or a Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, is it not a contradictory that Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is born without a father's sperms? What is the exact scientific reasoning?
The brothers posed the question that how can you prove scientifically the miracle of Jesus, peace be upon him, that he was born without a father, without male intervention. Brother, as I said in my talk, a miracle is an unusual event for which human beings cannot give an explanation. It's an unusual event which is attributed to supernatural power, to God Almighty. The miracles which took place in the past, most of them does not give an opportunity to analyze them today, because we can't go back in the past. We can't go back in the past. There are few miracles which give us an opportunity to examine them. Now all the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who came before Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they were only sent for their people. Only for their people. And the message was for a limited time period. Therefore even the miracle was for a limited time period. What miracles they did then satisfied those people. Those miracles, just by saying that Jesus Christ was born without any father, will not satisfy an unbeliever. Why? He can't go back in time and verify. Because all the messengers that came before Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they were meant only for their time, not for eternity. But Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the last and final messenger. He was not only sent for the Muslims or the Arabs, he was sent for the whole of humanity. And his message is still eternity. Therefore, the miracle that he has brought, the Holy Quran, can be analyzed even today. It's a miracle till eternity. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has done hundreds of miracles, other miracles, which we Muslims believe. But he never emphasized that. We Muslims don't boast of that. We Muslims only boast of this, because we can't prove those miracles scientifically. But this living miracle of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can be analyzed by us even today. So previous miracles, time does not allow us to go back in time. If we could go back in time, we could have analyzed how was he born without a father. But yet, brother, I can yet give you a scientific explanation. I can yet give you. Today science tells us there are certain species which can be born without male intervention. And the best example is the male bee. The male bee is the egg which has not been fertilized by a male. The queen bee which lays eggs, which doesn't get fertilized by the male, they are born as male. The female bee is the eggs which are fertilized by the male. So there are several animals today in this world who are born without fertilization. I do know that this thing takes place in low animals. There's no proof in higher animals. Who does it? Science cannot tell us. Allah's mother does it. So when Allah can make this possible to happen in Isa alayhi salam, where it is described in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 45 to 47, it says, قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة اسمه المسيح عيسى ابن مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة من المقربين. That behold, the angel said to Mary, we give you glad tidings of a word from him. His name shall be Christ, son of Mary, who will be held in honor in this world and in the hereafter. And he will be among the companies of those most righteous. Those most righteous. So the verse continues that he will speak to the people in childhood and in maturity, and will be among the people those who are righteous. So Mary, peace be upon her, asks, how shall I have a son when no man has touched me? The answer is given, فَإِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. When Allah decreed the matter, he just said to it, be, and it is. I have given you a scientific explanation. When Allah can make it possible in a male bee, it's very much easy for Allah to make it possible even in this, in Isa alayhi salam. For him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to create a Jesus, peace be upon him, إِذَا قَضَى أَمْرًا فَإِنَّمَا يَقُولُ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. When he decreed the matter, he just said to it, be, and it is. For him to create 1 million people like that, it's just easy. It's a miracle. I'm not telling you Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, was born like that, like the male bee. I don't know. I have given you a scientific explanation. When it's possible there, why can't Allah make it in the higher animals, the human beings? I hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Zakir. My name is Sania. I'm a revered Muslim. The question is, in your lecture, you mentioned the scientific facts from the Quran which have been established. Can you mention a few Quranic verses which science has not confirmed?
The sister posed the question that I've mentioned in my talk, the scientific facts which science has already established, it's mentioned in the Holy Quran. Can I mention some few points in the Quran which science has not established? For example, the Quran says in Surah Shura, chapter 42, verse number 29, it says, it is Allah who has created the heavens and the earth. and put creatures, living creatures throughout them. Quran says there is life besides this earth. Allah has put living creatures throughout the heavens and the earth. There is no scientific evidence, established scientific evidence, that there is life besides this earth. Recently, they have been sending rockets and spaceships to different planets, different satellites, etc. And now just a couple of months earlier, we read in the newspapers that they got certain material from Mars, which gives proof that life can be there in Mars. And in, I think, day before yesterday's paper, I read in Times of India, that they have found water in the moon. Maybe a comet crashed, and there's a big crater, and the water has been frozen to ice. So in future, it will be easier to do investigations. We do not have to take waters from planet Earth to moon. Water is already present there. We can use that water, and it will save us a lot of trouble. Science is saying there are high possibilities of life being there besides Earth. But since Quran says, I believe in it. Maybe after 1 or 2 years, they may discover there's life besides this Earth, or maybe after 50 years. Today, scientists, they have given various views. How will our Earth end? Some scientists have given a description that the mountains will fall down. Some scientists say the mountains and rocks will become smooth when the Earth is destroyed. Some people say the ocean will swell up. Some people say the universe will go in a black hole. Several. Quran too gives a description about the day of judgment. How will our creation end? Many of them match with the theories of science. Theories, not established facts. For example, the Quran says in Surah Ahqaf, chapter 46, verse number 3, it is Allah who has created the heavens and the earth for a limited period of time. And Allah will surely give you an indication that this creation will be destroyed. And gives various signs in the Quran. For example, if you read Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse number 8 and 9, it says that the moon will be buried in darkness. The sun and the moon will join together before our world ends. If you read Surah Takwir, chapter 81, verse number 1, 2, 3 and verse number 6, it says that the sun will be folded up. The stars will fall down. The ocean will swell up. The mountain will fall down in utter ruin. Quran says in Surah Infitar, chapter 82, verse number 1, 2 and 3, it says the sky will be cleft asunder. The star will be scattered. The mountain will fall down. Various signs how will the earth end is given. These are scientific points mentioned in the Quran which science hasn't established yet. For example, the Holy Quran also says in Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 104, that as we created this creation, we will roll up the heavens like a scroll is rolled up. And as we created the early creation, we shall create a new creation. So Quran says there is one more new creation that is going to be created after the world is destroyed. Science doesn't know about that. Quran says the first man on the earth was Adam alayhi salam. Science hasn't discovered that yet. Quran speaks about soul. Science hasn't established that human beings have got soul. The Holy Quran also speaks about jinns, about spirits, about angels. Science hasn't been able to discover that. Quran speaks about life after death. Science hasn't discovered that. Quran speaks about heaven and hell. Science hasn't discovered about that. But you may ask me the question, Dr. Zakir, you have given such a good lecture speaking about scientific facts, and you believe in jinns, you believe in angels, you believe in soul, you believe in life after death. Aren't you illogical? I will say no. I am not illogical. I have got a logic why I believe. I don't blindly believe in life after death, in the soul, in heaven and hell, in jinns and spirits. I have a logical belief. I base my logical belief saying that suppose there are scientific facts mentioned in the Holy Quran, out of which, say approximately, 80% have been proved to be 100% correct. 80% of the scientific facts mentioned in the Quran have been proved by science till today to be 100% correct. The remaining 20% is ambiguous, unknown. Not even 0.001% have been proved false. Even if one verse is proved false, the Quran is not the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these 20% I say goes in the ambiguous slot, unknown. So my logic says, when 80% is 100% correct, the remaining 20% is ambiguous, out of which not even 0.001% has been proved wrong. All are unknown. My logic says when 80% is correct, even those 20% will be inshallah correct. It's not a blind belief, it's a logical belief.
I would like to just make an observation. We have had throughout most of the questioners who have been our Muslim brothers and sisters. What I would suggest is one questioner, the one who's at the mic here, the one at the mic here, and the next one who's at the mic there, after giving them an opportunity, we would rather give an opportunity to non-Muslims to ask questions, and it would be a more interesting session. What I would like to assure the non-Muslims that though you see a huge crowd of thousands of people here, many of them Muslims, I would assure you we have a very sensible crowd and our volunteers are very trained to be on your side, to protect you, to defend you. There is no, you can rest assured there is no such thing as someone will come up and say, how do you talk like this? I assure you on behalf of the organizers here, you are totally safe to ask any question, even if you consider it very ridiculous. What I've noticed is Muslim brothers and sisters have come up and asked questions who some other non-Muslim or someone might have put them, or they may have read in some scientific book somewhere and they have put it forward. I hope this observation is appreciated and taken in the right vein. So we'll allow the person who's already on the mics, I'll give them opportunities. Those who are behind them, I would request them, if you kindly appreciate our point of view as organizers and cooperate, though you all have been standing in the queue, if you can cooperate, allow the next question on those mics to any brother or sister who's a non-Muslim, give them a preference after that. It would be very kind of you. Thank you. The next question, please.
My name is Mohammad Sadat. I am a chemical engineer in Hindustan Petroleum. In Quran it is mentioned that it is Allah who decides the characteristics and the personality of a person inside his or her mother's womb. In the field of genetics, this field has advanced so much that nowadays parents can tailor-make their children. If they want to have a very bright student, they can have it by just having that genetic code changed. Now, isn't this contradictory with Quran?
The brother posed the question that today genetics field has advanced and it's possible that we can change the genetics of the child that is going to be born. Quran says that Allah is one who shapes, who forms, and I do agree with that. Quran says in several places. So does it not mean it's contradicting the Quran? No, brother, it is not. When it gives the statement, Quran says, without the power of Allah, it is not possible. Without the power of Allah, it is not possible at all. For example, I'll give an example. Quran says in Surah Rahman, chapter 55, verse number 33, that with power and skill, you will be able to penetrate the heavens and the earth. Not without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, you will penetrate the heavens and the earth, but only with permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today, because people are going in the heaven, that does not mean the Quran is wrong. Quran says you can do, but with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's predicting that people will go in outer space, in moon, etc. But if Allah doesn't want, it cannot happen. And you know the incident of Challenger. The Challenger tried to take off, what happened? He tried to challenge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happened? Nothing. Even today, we say family planning. Do you know, there's no family planning which is perfect. Even if you do tubectomy or vasectomy, if Allah wants, He can yet bring easy conception to that lady, even if she practices permanent method, like tubectomy, or the husband does vasectomy. Still there are chances, but negligible chances, that the baby can be born. If Allah wishes, no one can stop. You do any family planning method, in genetics also. If they are able to change, it's with Allah's permission. If Allah doesn't want, you cannot change at all. So few people are successful, all aren't successful. Those who are successful are with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who are not, Allah has not given them permission. Same way, family planning, those who are successful, Allah gives permission. Those who are not successful, Allah doesn't give permission. Hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum, Zakir bhai. I was a Hindu first and I converted into Islam recently. What I would like to ask you a question is this, that in Islam and in the Hadith it is written that the Kana Dajjal is going to come very frequently, very soon. But the main problem is that on this subject,
we will allow questions on the topic. That you put your question directly on this topic. See, Zakir can answer on various topics. In fact, I would like to mention that there are videotapes of Dr. Zakir available outside on various topics he has spoken on. But they take 2 to 3 hours to cover up one topic in a proper context and cover up well. Like there are topics he has spoken on, you can have videotapes out on, is the Quran God's word? Women's rights in Islam, modernizing or outdated? Press debate on, is religious fundamentalism a stumbling block to the freedom of expression? Quran and modern science, religion in the right perspective. Al-Quran, should it be read with understanding? Similarities between Islam and Christianity. Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the various world scriptures. Islam, medical science and dietary laws. Islam, the universal religions, and many other topics he has spoken. But today is the time for Quran and modern science, conflict or conciliation only. We will not allow any topic outside this topic frame, because that we require a 3 hours period to do justice to the topic. That's the reason why. I hope you appreciate that. You can put your question if it is related to the topic. Brother, you can put your question if it is related to the topic.
I would like to answer another question regarding this modern science.
Yes,
and
welcome.
embroidery. A woman it is always, when a woman is carrying a baby in a womb, Islam forbids abortion. But if a woman is facing some kind of a medical problem, if she's anemic, or if she has just delivered a baby recently, in recent months to come, and there's always a threat to her life, non-Muslims doctors say to abort it, and the Muslim doctors say it is haram. And someone who's a little bit modern has said that if the child is for 40 days in the womb, before 40 days you can abort it, after 40 days it is not possible. You cannot do it under Islamic law. Is that right or is that wrong?
The brother asked a question that is speaking that today scientifically, the doctors who want to abort, etc. Why does Quran does not give permission to abort if it's danger to the life of the mother? Quran speaks about abortion in Surah Anam, chapter 6, verse number 151. As well as in Surah Isra, chapter 17, verse number 31, it says, kill not your children for want of sustenance. For it is Allah that will provide sustenance to you and your children. For killing of infants is a major sin. So abortion is haram under normal circumstances. For example, pork is haram. Alcohol is haram. Having dead meat is haram. But same time the Quran says in 4 different places. In Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 173, in Surah Ma'idah chapter number 5 verse number 3, in Surah Anam chapter 6 verse number 145, and Surah Nahl chapter 16 verse number 115, it says that if unwillingly, if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is Rahman Rahim. If under compulsion, if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is Rahman Rahim. If you are dying of hunger, pork is the only dish that you can have. Pork becomes halal for you. It's perfectly halal, but don't have so much and keep on having after you don't require it. If you are in a jungle, if pork is the only thing that you can find to eat, or in a desert, pork becomes allowed for you only for that time. When you come back to the city, it becomes haram. The same way abortion, just because you don't want a child is haram in Islam, it's a major sin. But if it's a danger to the life of the mother, it's totally allowed. Because in Islam, the life of the mother is more precious than the life of the child, which has not come in being on its own. I do know there are certain people who say that after 40 days, it's not allowed, before 40 it's allowed. Quran is very clear-cut on that. If it's a danger to your life, unwillingly if you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's totally allowed. So if the doctor say that you have certain heart problem and the labor pains will cause a strain on your heart, the mother will die, you have to abort, you have to go ahead with it. Because in Islam, you cannot sacrifice a greater loss to save a small loss. The life of the mother who's already alive and adult is more important than the child who cannot live on its own. So in these cases, if it's a danger to the life of the mother, it's totally allowed in Islam. If it's not a danger, it's haram. Hope that answers the question.
The next question from the ladies' side.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Zakir. My question is, when Quran speaks so much about science, then how come the Muslims are so backward in the field of science?
The sister posed the question that when Quran speaks so much about science, how come the Muslims are backward? Sister, I would mainly blame the media. The media today is in the hands of the Westerners, the Europeans. It's in their hand. They have the satellite, they have the television, they have the CNN, they have the BBC. It's in their hand. The media is in their hand. And whatever you read in your school books and books which you read in college, you'll read there that from 8th to the 12th century, it was the dark ages. Dark for whom? It was dark for the Europeans, not for the world. The Arabs and the Muslims were very much advanced from the 8th to the 12th century. They were very much advanced. The Europeans were backward. Because they were backward, they said it was dark ages for the world. It was not dark for the world, it was dark for the Europeans. With the limited instruments and technology what we had from 8th to 12th century, what discoveries the Muslim scientists made, it's unbelievable. Today, because science is advanced, we are making so many discoveries. There, with the amount of limited facility we had, the amount of discoveries Muslim scientists made, it's unbelievable. For example, I quoted in my talk that Ibn Nafis, he discovered the blood circulation. But in the medical books and the books we read in school, who discovered blood circulation? William Harvey. Everyone knows William Harvey. No one knows about Ibn Nafis. Ibn Nafis spoke about blood circulation 400 years before. The Europeans, they later on picked up the books of the Muslims and rehashed it and said, we discovered it. See, if you see the discovery that Muslims have made. For example, if you know Al-Idrisi, in 1154, he drew the first map of Mediterranean, the geography of the world. First. Mathematics. Muslims were far advanced in mathematics. We introduced the decimal points. Do you know what we call the digits 1, 2, 3? It's called as Arabic numerals. The other ones are called as Roman numerals. Why it's called Arabic numerals? Because the Arabs were the one who discovered it. The decimal point as Arabic numerals. The person who first proved the Pythagoras theorem, he was Al-Tusi. We know about the Pythagoras theorem, but we don't know about Al-Tusi. He said that the square of the hypotenuse was equal to the sum of the opposite two sides of the triangle. Al-Biruni, he was an authority in trigonometry. All these people, they were experts. If you know of Al-Kindi, Al-Kindi, he was a philosopher, a mathematician, an astronomer. When great scientists like Galileo, Newton, etc., they said that all physical laws were absolute, he said that all physical laws are relative. And today we know the theory of relativity is proved by Albert Einstein. No one knows about Al-Kindi. He was the person who basically gave the idea of theory of relativity. Later on, he did more research and talked about theory of relativity. Who knows about the three brothers, Muhammad, Shakir and Hassan? Who know about them? They told the surface area of the earth from an angle at the Red Sea when people thought the world was flat. Chemistry. The Muslims are far advanced in chemistry. Ibn Hayyan, Jabir ibn Hayyan, they have Latinized the word Geber. So when we read in our textbook Geber, we think it's an European. It's a Muslim. Jabir ibn Hayyan. We know Geber, we don't know who's Jabir. He is the person who distilled alcohol. Alcohol comes from the Arabic word al-ghul, meaning ghost, evil spirit. Alkali is an Arabic word. He wrote 2,000 different pages only on chemistry. Muhammad Zakaria Razi, he was famous in medicine. He was authority on the field of smallpox and measles. He was the first person who used mercury ointment. He wrote books on children's disease. There are several Muslim scientists. Ali ibn Abbas, he wrote 20 volumes on medicine. Ali ibn Sina, known as Avicenna. Avicenna, it doesn't sound Muslim. Ali ibn Sina are Muslim. Avicenna not Muslim. Who got the title of Aristotle of the East. He wrote the book Qanun, which was referred as a textbook of medicine till as late as 17th century. Who knows Ibn Zuhur? He was the person after Alexander who did research on parasitology. He described the H. mite, the pericarditis, he described the otitis media, he did tracheostomy. Several medical doctors, Al-Zaharwi. Al-Zaharwi was a famous dentist as well as surgeon as well as obstetrician. He invented several instruments of surgery, gynecology, as well as dentistry. We all of us know the other thing, but the media is in the hands of the Westerners. The Muslims are far advanced. But I do agree with you. Today, the Muslims are getting backward in science. You know why? The Europeans are being advanced. You know why? The Muslims are becoming backward because we are going away from the Holy Quran. We are going away from the religion. And do you know why the Europeans are getting advanced? They too are going away from the religion. The Europeans are also getting advanced because even they are going away from the religion. The Muslims, we are going backward because they are going away from religion. I would request the Muslim brothers and sisters out here, as well as non-Muslims, they are people reading the Quran. Why don't we read the Quran with understanding? Why don't we ponder over the verses? We have only kept the Quran kissing and giving on top, that's all. The Quran was not meant only to be kissed and kept on top. It should be implemented in your daily life. If you implement the Quran in your daily life, read it with understanding, inshallah, again, we will be on top of the world. Hope that answers the question.
Now I would request our volunteers to give opportunity to any non-Muslim brothers and guests we have here at our mics to give them a preference and opportunity, and then our other brothers. Thank you. Can we have your name and designation and your question after that?
Hello.
My brother on the right.
I am K. Mahesh, lecturer from Sabu Siddiq Polytechnic in the Computer Department. I would like to ask regarding the Muslim marriage system, why Islam allows more than one woman to be married with a man? I mean, apart from that, why it allows multiple marriages after talaqs? And does it harm, I mean, in terms of medical, like AIDS and that type of things? And why Islam suppresses the woman that much and don't give the equal status to the woman? As a recent example of Afghanistan, which had happened, that a woman had been beaten as she was out and doing some work, and she wasn't in the parda.
Brother, what I would request you ask question on the topic. Zakir has covered another topic of this question: women's rights in Islam, modernizing or outdated. There is a videotape we have available. Women's rights, it covers up. It's a 3-hour lecture. You just put one question. There are hundreds of questions on this topic. Brief topic, and he has covered up many of these questions. What we request: ask question on the topic.
Why it allows more than one marriages, like 2-3 women, one man? I mean, marry more than one.
No, excuse me. Can I have your name, please? I didn't.
K. Mahesh. I am K. Mahesh.
Huh? What I would like to clarify is that today the talk is on Quran and modern science. You may ask any question on this topic, not any question outside this topic.
I would request that if the chairperson gives me an opportunity, since it's a non-Muslim asking a question, if the chairperson gives the opportunity, we will make only this as the first exception.
Okay, we'll allow this, but let's not make it a habit.
Since the person is not ready to leave the mic, he may think that we may not know the answer. Brothers, we have this rule so that all the questions on the topic are covered. As Dr. Muhammad Naik said, these questions, what have been posed earlier, which was rejected, since you are the Muslim, we didn't allow. Since you're a non-Muslim and you're so enthusiastic, but I think the chairperson will not give a second chance to another non-Muslim who breaks the rules.
We'll allow him. Usually when Zakir goes abroad also, we have a session called open question answer session on the topic or out of the topic. Today it is not like that. Today it's only on the topic.
The brother posed the question that why does Islam allow a man to marry more than one wife? For remaining questions, all your questions answered in that cassette, even this. But since you asked here, I'm just giving the reply. That Quran is the only religious book on the face of the earth which says marry only one. There's no other religious book on the face of the earth. Whether you read the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, no religious book says marry only one except the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 3, it says, marry women of your choice in 2s, 3s or 4s. But if you can't do justice, marry only one. If you can't do justice, marry only one. Otherwise, if you can do justice, Quran has put an upper limit, 2, 3 or 4. Maximum 4, not more than that. Previous religions gave permission for a man to marry as many wives as you want. Quran put an upper restriction of maximum 4. You know why? Because if you think logically, if you analyze, but it says at the same time, in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse 129, it is difficult to do justice between your wives. It's difficult. Therefore, do not turn away from them altogether. Marrying more than one wife, you don't get more sawab. You don't get more blessings. There is no hadith saying that if you marry more than one wife, you get more sawab. There's a hadith which says that if you marry, you complete half your deen. So somebody asked me a question at the time, does it mean if I marry twice, I complete my full deen? No, marriage takes you away from promiscuity, from fornication, therefore it is fard. But whether you marry 1 or 2, yet you're only completing half your deen. The reason why Islam gives permission for polygyny, that's the right word, is because if you analyze, men and women are born in equal proportion. But in the pediatric age itself, since the female is the stronger sex medically, if you ask any pediatrician, he'll tell you, the female can fight the germs and disease much better than the male. So more female children live than the male children. There are more deaths in the male children than female children. When you grow up, there are accidents, death due to cigarette smoking, death due to war. More male die than female. War in Afghanistan. Do you know more than 1 million people died? Mainly they were gents. Whatever it is, whatever you said. More men die than female. If you analyze the statistics, India is one of the few countries in which there is more male than female. You know why? Because of female infanticide. Every day, 3,000 fetuses are being aborted when they identified that they are females. More than 1 million aborted every year in India on being identified they are female. That's the reason. Otherwise, if you see the statistics of America, there are more than 7.8 million females than males in America alone. In New York alone, there is 1 million female more than male. And out of the population of New York, 1/3 are gay, sodomite, Luth. There are more than 25 million gays in America. That means there are more than 30 million females who can't find husband in America alone. In UK alone, there are 4 million females more than male. In Germany alone, 5 million females more than male. In Russia alone, 7 million females more than male. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone knows there are how many million females more than males in this world. I am asking you a question that suppose my sister or your sister happens to live in America, and suppose everyone agrees with your philosophy that every man should marry one wife, and every man in America marries a woman, still there will be 7.8 million females, and plus, since the gays also don't get married, there will be more than 25 to 30 million females who can't find husbands. If my sister happens to be one of those unfortunate lady who has not been married and the market is saturated, the only option remaining for my sister is to marry a man who already has a wife or become public property.
The next question from a brother on the left.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adiyar Anwar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything. Some verses we prepared like this. Why plural is coming?
The brother posed the question that why has the word we used in the Quran for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it more than one? Brother, we in Arabic, there are two types. One is we for plural, one is royal plural. Royal plural. Like for example, if you know Rajiv Gandhi, how he used to speak, he used to say, hum dekhna chahte hai, hum. That hum was not plural, it was singular. It's a royal plural, it's called. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some places uses I, some places uses we. The we in Arabic does not indicate plurality. It means royal plural. Actually it is singular. So we, when it says we have created you, it means singular Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran clearly states in Surah Ikhlas, chapter 112, verse number 1, Qul huwallahu ahad. Say he is Allah one and only. Allah is only one, not more than one. Hope that answers the question.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I would like to know whether organ transplant and organ donation are permitted in Islam.
The sister posed a question that is organ transplantation or donation allowed in Islam or not? There is no verse in the Holy Quran directly saying that whether you should give or you should not give. It's silent on that issue. There were various conferences taking place by various ulama throughout the world, including in Malaysia, in Jeddah, in Riyadh, even here, on this issue where organ transplantation is allowed or not. By the consensus of the ulama of the world, today they say that organ transplantation is allowed if you satisfy the three conditions. First is the organ that you are going to give to the person. The person, if he receives the organ, his life will be saved. Only if his life is in danger, and then if he wants the organ, then it's allowed. Point number 2, the person donating the organ, he should not do it for economical reasons, not for money. Not for getting 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakh rupees. Third is after the person donates the organ, it should not cause loss of his life. Today science tells that there are certain organs in the body, for example the kidney. 1 kidney is sufficient for a human being to survive and lead a normal life. The second is an additional. So if, suppose my mother, if she has both the kidney failure, and if I donate 1 kidney, surely Allah will not hold me responsible. So but natural, if it doesn't cause a loss to my life, I can't say I want to donate my heart. If my heart is taken out, I'll die. So I can't donate my heart. I can only donate those organs which will not cause loss to my life. And I should not do it for economical reasons, point number 2. And third, it should save the life. This is the consensus of ulamas of the conference that took place in Malaysia, in Riyadh, in Jeddah, in India. In India, the ulamas were reluctant, but now if you ask the Fiqh Academy of India, even they say it should not be done. But if it is used to saving the life as a last resort, you can give your organ as a donation. Hope that answers the question.
The brother on my right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm a student of Sabu Siddiq. My name is Harsh Waghela. I want to ask a question that after the death of human being, dead body should be burnt out or should be buried?
The brother posed the question that after a human being dies, should his body be burnt or should it be buried? Let's analyze scientifically which is more appropriate. Brother, as I told in my talk, or in the question answer time I believe, that the elements, the constituent of human beings is present in lesser or greater quantity in the soil, in the earth. So we are created from earth, we should go back to earth, it's logical. It's more easier for us to go back into the earth, point number 1. Point number 2 is that if we burn a body, there is pollution, there's environmental hazard. Environmental hazard is there. When you bury a body, there is no environmental hazard. In fact, the place where you bury, point number 3, the ground and the surrounding ground becomes more fertile. Point number 4, it is very cheap to bury. You don't require any money. Earth is freely available. There are graveyards. But to cremate, to burn, you require tons and tons of wood. Therefore, every year, if it's statistics, our government goes in loss of millions of rupees because they're burning wood. Loss to environment, environmental problem, hazard, and plus waste of money. If you calculate the amount of people that are dying, amount of people who are burning, it's a loss of money, hazard to the environment. It's much more logical and scientific to bury the body than to burn. Hope that answers the question.
I would, after the next 2 questions are over, I will allow some questions on slips. I'm told that some ladies would have written questions on slips. They would not like to ask on mic, or there are some other people also. So we'll allow some questions. The questions which have come on slip can be passed on to me after the question. And unless if there is some brother who's a non-Muslim, I have told them they have not had enough opportunity, so that we will make an exception to that. They can ask on the mic, otherwise I read questions from the slip after the next 2 questions are over.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khalid and I am a student. It's mentioned in Quran that sun and other planets revolve and rotate in a fixed orbit. And at other place relating to the doomsday, it's mentioned that earth will collide with sun in somewhat a spiral form. When revolution and rotation can, then the phenomenon of collision takes place, how is it possible?
The brother posed the question that it says that the sun and the earth rotate, and some places it says sun and the earth will collide. Some places it says that. But as I told you, there are certain statements in the Quran talking about the signs of the day of judgment. And I myself quoted in Surah Qiyamah, chapter 75, verse number 8 and 9, that the sun and the moon will join together. When? On the day of judgment, not today. It's giving you signs of day of judgment. It's not telling you that today it will happen. The name of the surah is Surah Qiyamah, day of resurrection, and gives various signs that the moon will be buried in darkness, the stars will fall down, the ocean will swell up, etc. These are signs of the day of judgment. Has it happened? No. But before the world ends, it will surely happen. Hope that answers the question. Nowhere does the Quran say a normal circumstance will happen.
Excuse me, to be fair to the people who are already at the mics, next 3-4 we'll allow the system, what I'm asking, the volunteers told me, allow some people. What I would say, one question I'll ask now on the slip, then on the mic, one on the slip, then on the mic. I think that would be more preferable. So some people, they said they're feeling bad, they stood for some time. So I think the next 2 or 3 people can be allowed to stand. The rest, beyond that, the volunteers can just ask them to please be seated. I think that would be more preferable. Thank you. The question on the slip is, it is mentioned in one verse of the Quran that Allah is the Lord of the 2 east and 2 west. How can you explain this verse of the Quran scientifically?
The question posed was that the Holy Quran mentions that Allah is the Lord of 2 east and 2 west. How can you explain scientifically? What the person is referring to is a verse in the Holy Quran from Surah Rahman, chapter number 55, verse number 17, which says, Rabbul Mashriqani wal Rabbul Maghribani, that Allah is the Lord of 2 east and 2 west. The Arabic word used here is, in Arabic, we have 2 types of plural. One is dual plural and one is plural more than 2. Here, Rabbul Mashriqani is dual plural, that Allah is the Lord of 2 east and Lord of 2 west. Let's see what science has to say about that. And we know that the sun rises from the east and it sets in the west. But science tells us today that the sun rises from the due east only on 2 days, exact east. In the other times, if you notice, the point of rising of the sun keeps on varying. It rises exactly due east only on 2 days, the 2 days of equinox. All the other days, it either rises south or north of east. Similarly, it rises from one extreme of the east in the summer solstice and rises from the other extreme of the east in winter solstice. Similarly, the sun sets in due west only on 2 days of equinox. All the other days, it either sets south or north of due west. It sets in one extreme of west in the summer solstice and sets in the other extreme of west in the winter solstice. So when the Quran says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord of 2 east and 2 west, it is referring to the 2 extreme points of east and 2 extreme points of west. But there's another verse in the Holy Quran, in Surah Marij, chapter number 70, verse number 40, which says that Allah is the Lord of east and west. It is not dual plural, it is plural more than 2. Allah is the Lord of east and the Lord of west. Therefore, Allah is the Lord of all the various points in East. So in short, Allah is the Lord of two extreme points of East, two extreme points of West, and all the points in between in the West, and all the points in between in the East.
Next question from the ladies' side, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Zakir. My name is Malika Muhammad Islam. My question is that what does the Quran mean when it says that Allah sent down iron from the heaven?
The sisters asked the question, what does the Quran mean when it says that Allah has sent down iron from the heaven? The verse the sisters referring to the Holy Quran is in Surah Hadith, chapter 57, which means iron, verse number 25, which says that Allah has sent down iron, in which there is material for war and various benefits for the human beings. The Arabic word used for send down is anzala. It means to send down. Now anzala can be looked at in two different ways. One way is Allah has sent down, Allah has revealed. So Allah has revealed that in iron there is a lot of use and material for mighty war, as well as benefits for humankind. Allah has revealed this, that in iron there is material for war and various benefits. And we know today that iron is one of the most important metals we know of. From it we get steel. And steel and iron is used for making instruments of war, like weapons, swords, spears, guns, etc. It's even used for making instruments of peace, like bricklayer, instruments of an engineer, instruments of an architect, knife, fork, spoon, etc. So, if you read the first meaning, it says that Allah has revealed that in iron there is various benefits and material for mighty war. The other way, if you take literally, that iron has been sent down to heaven. This verse was shown to Professor Armstrong. That what do you have to comment on Surah Hadith, chapter 57, verse number 25, he says that iron has been sent down for heaven. So he tells us that it's recently that the scientists have come to know about the formation process of various elements. And they say that the energy required to make one atom of iron, it's so enormous that the energy of the whole solar system is not sufficient. And a calculation was made that energy 4 times that of the solar system is made to produce one atom of iron. Means the energy of the moon, the stars, the sun, all these energies we take of the planets, etc., of only the planets of the solar system and the sun and the moon, it will not be sufficient to produce one atom of iron. Scientists today tell us that iron is an extraterrestrial metal, which is confirming the Quranic ayat, if you take it literally, that iron has been sent down from the heaven.
The next question from the slip. There was a philosopher in 6th century BC who said that the earth rotates about its own axis and the planets move around the sun. The Quran also gives the indication of a similar scientific fact. Some people allege that the Prophet copied these points from the philosopher. Please comment.
The question posed was that there was a philosopher in 6th century BC who said the planets and the earth rotate around the sun. So maybe the Prophet copied from the philosopher, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I do agree that in the 6th century BC, the Pythagoreans, these people, they defended the theory that the earth and the planets, they rotate and they revolved around the sun. But to say that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, copied from them is illogical, because these people failed to realize that the same Pythagoreans, they also defended the theory that the sun was the center of the universe. The sun was fixed. It did not rotate, neither did it revolve. So to say that Prophet Muhammad copied those 2 points, earth and planets rotate and they revolve, and didn't copy the point which says that the sun was center of universe, the sun was fixed, it did not rotate, it did not revolve, is illogical. I do know that there are various philosophers whose works of antiquity gives us ideas, and they say several things. But if you analyze the works of philosophers of antiquity, their works is mixed with valid and invalid reasons, invalid and valid ideas. People normally quote the valid ideas, they forget that they even left behind invalid ideas. They were great thinkers. The difference between these philosophers who predicted and the Quran is, these philosophers only thought and predicted, and they made even false statements. The Quran, alhamdulillah, more than 1,000 verses speak about science, and not a single is wrong. The difference is Quran gives a challenge. To say that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam copied from these people and didn't copy the negative point, maybe one or two it's possible, it's for fluke. But to say that all the thousands of verses, the Quran speaks about science, were copied is illogical, because Quran gives a challenge. أَفَلَّا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. In Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 82, do you not consider the Quran with care? Had it been from anyone besides Allah, there would have been many contradictions.
The next question from my brother on the right.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Faisal. How scientifically or logically can you explain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being omniscient, that is knowing the past, present, future and everything, sent scriptures before the Quran? Why didn't he send the Quran itself?
Brother has a question that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send Quran earlier? Why did he send the other revelations first and then the Quran? It's like you asking me that why didn't you first teach me medicine? Why I had to go to standard 1, standard 2, standard 3 and then do my medicine? You have to go in stage wise. All the previous revelations that came before the Quran, as I mentioned earlier, were sent only for those people and for a particular time period. The Holy Quran is sent for the whole of humankind, and its message is meant till eternity. Therefore, the previous revelations, they had not been preserved. Allah thought it right. He has divine knowledge. He knows when to send the final revelation. Not that he could not send earlier. Like the teacher knows how much to teach to a student. Should not go beyond the level. So Allah thought it fit that the humankind maybe had reached that level where I can reveal the final revelation. Allah knew that maybe previously the time was not right. Therefore, all the previous revelations, none of them have been preserved except the Holy Quran. Because Quran is the last and final revelation, and it will prove itself to be the word of God. It proved itself 1400 years ago, will prove today, and will be able to prove till eternity, inshallah.
The next question from the slip. The Quran says that Allah has made the earth for you as a carpet. This gives an indication that earth is flat, which is contradictory with modern science.
The question posed was, and people are astonished out here, that the Quran says the earth was like a carpet, spread out like a carpet, so doesn't mean it was flat. What the person is referring to is an ayat in the Holy Quran, in Surah Nuh, chapter number 71, verse number 19 and 20, which does say that we have spread out the earth like a carpet. But it gives the answer in the next verse, in verse number 20, so that you may walk and travel in the spacious path. As I mentioned in my talk, the geology that tell us today, the earth which we live on the surface is hardly 1 to 10 miles, and less than 1% of the total radius of the earth, which is 3,750 miles. The top layer is a solid shell. The deeper layers are hot and fluid and inhospitable for existence of life. Nowhere does the Quran say that the earth is flat. It gives a similitude that we have spread out the earth like a carpet. People normally have a misconception that a carpet can only be spread on a flat surface. It's wrong. A carpet can also be spread on a spherical surface. For example, imagine that there is a big model of the earth, the globe, say about 10 feet in radius, very big. Very well, you can spread a carpet around it. It's possible. But Quran is scientifically also speaking that besides spreading out, today science tells us that the earth's crust, because when we lay out a carpet, we normally spread out a carpet on the surface which is not comfortable to walk on. Carpet is normally spread out on a surface which is not comfortable to walk on. So science today tells us that if the outer crust was not spread out like a carpet around the spherical earth, we would not be able to live. Because the deeper layers are hot and fluid. So when Quran says they have spread out the earth, it is referring to the earth's crust has been spread out like a carpet. And the reason is given so that you may walk in the spacious path of the Lord. Quran says in other places also that we have made the earth as spacious. Quran says this in Naba, chapter 78, verse number 6, we have made the earth as an expanse. It is referring that the earth we have made as wide. You know why? The answer is given in Surah An-Kabut, chapter 29, verse 56, which says, we have made the earth as a wide expanse for you so that you will worship me and me alone. So tomorrow you cannot say that the situation where I lived in, maybe Bombay, it was a difficult circumstances. Therefore, I was prevented to do good deeds and I did evil deeds. Allah says the earth is a wide expanse for you. It is spacious. You cannot give the excuse for doing evil deeds because of your circumstances. Therefore worship Allah and Allah alone. There is no place in the Holy Quran which says the world is flat. In fact, I told in my speech, the Quran says in Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse 29, and Surah Al-Zumur, chapter 39, verse number 5, that the world is spherical. And specifically in Surah Naziyah, chapter 79, verse number 30, Wal arda ba'da zalika dahaha. We have made the earth thereafter egg-shaped, like an ostrich egg, which is exactly geospherical. Hope that answers the question.
Next brother on my left.
Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdul Subhan. I am an accountant. It is mentioned in Quran that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, no one can say what is in the stomach of mother, male or female. But on the other hand, science says, or is proving that male or female. So kindly give your bright light on this question.
The brother posed the question that the Quran says that no one besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can mention what is the sex of the child in the mother's womb. And today science is advanced. We can come to know by ultrasonography, etc., the sex of the child. What the brother is referring to a verse in the Holy Quran from Surah Luqman, chapter 31, verse number 34, which says, only Allah has the knowledge of the hour, of when it is going to rain, what is in the womb of the mother, where will a person die, and what will he earn. The Quran says only Allah knows what is in the womb of the mother. It does not say what is the sex of the child in the mother's womb. I do know there are various translations, especially the Urdu translations. They mention the word sex. The word sex is not there in the Holy Quran. The Arabic verse of Surah Luqman chapter 31 verse 34 does not say sex. It says no one besides Allah knows what is in the womb. It's only referring to the nature of the child. Whether the child that will be born, will he be good or will he be bad? Boon for society, will he be bane for society? What will he become, a doctor or an engineer? Will he go to heaven or hell? And no scientist with the best technology can decipher that. Nowhere does the Quran say that only Allah knows the sex. It is saying only Allah knows what will be the nature of the child and what will he do. And no scientist with whatever equipment they have can predict this.
The next question from the slip. What does the Quran speak about the possibility of life on other planets or moon, as the scientists are claiming possibility of water on the surface of moon? I think we have covered this in the earlier part of the question answer session. The next question I would put forward, which is come on the slip. We have talked about astronomy. What is the reference towards astrology and effect of the position of stars and planets on human life? The Hindu mythology and belief lays a lot of stress on Janpatri and palmistry. Your comments, please.
Question posed is, the Quran speaks about astronomy. What does the Quran speak about astrology? Like looking at the stars and Janpatri, fortune telling, etc. The Quran says in several places, including Surah Ma'idah chapter 5 verse number 90, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, innamal khamru wal maisuru, most certainly intoxicants and gambling. Wal anzabu wal aslamu, dedication of stones, divination of arrows, rijsun min amali shaitan. These are Satan's handiwork. Abstain from such handiwork that you may prosper. The Quran says that do not indulge in fortune telling. It doesn't say whether fortune telling can be right or wrong. It says don't indulge in it. And we know there are many people who can look at the palm and predict your future by looking at the stars, and we know most of it is fake. We know most of it is fake. You go to a computer, put your date of birth, and you get the answer. There was a research done by a professor to just show to the people what did he mean. He taught a classroom of 100 students for 7 days. At the end of the 7 days, he said, I have come to know the nature of all the students. I will write each one's nature on a piece of chit and give it to him. And when I say open the chit, open it simultaneously and give your views. So he wrote on a sheet of paper and gave to every student what his nature is. And what has he done in the past? What has he done so far? So all the students, they opened the chit. And do you know that more than 90% said that the teacher was 100% correct. The remaining 10% said he was 90% correct. The experiment was the teacher wrote the same thing for all the 100 students. You know, there are certain things, if I tell you, in the next 6 months, something good is going to happen to you. Even if 100 bad things happen, one good thing is going to happen. So it is no prediction. It is just making a flurry of the people. Most of these people who say that we can predict, you know what they say? See, all the other people who predict future are false. But the one which I go to, he is 100% correct. Everyone says that. And they take them for a ride, just to make money. Quran does not say whether it's right or wrong. Quran says do not indulge in fortune telling. It does not say no one can tell about this or that. It says don't indulge, it will cause you more harm. Hope that answers the question.
We'll allow another 4 to 5 questions, after which we would wind up the program. The next question from the slip is by Advocate Abbas Hetalkar. He asks, the world is threatened with the menace of AIDS. It is not known how to deal with it. Does Quran throw any light on its causes and prevention?
The question posed was that we are threatened with AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Does Quran throw any light on that? If you happen to know, that's the first International AIDS Conference, it took place in our city of Bombay in 1994 in Hotel Oberoi Towers. First international conference on AIDS. And Dr. Michael Merson, he was the person who headed here from WHO, World Health Organization. At that time he said there were about 11 million cases of AIDS detected, out of which 1.6 is present in India. And at the end of century, there will be 40 million cases of AIDS in the world, out of which 11 million will be in India. More than 25% will be in India. And he said that within 5 years' time, the next 5 years, there is doubtful of any cure. No one will know how to cure this. Best is prevention. Prevention is better than cure. And the reasons for this aid, he gave as, one is homosexuality. Other is heterosexuality, unsafe sex, that adultery. Third is using needles for drugs, blood transfusion, etc. And fourth is associated with alcoholism. If you analyze, Quran throws light on most of these topics. Quran says in Surah Araf, chapter number 7, verse number 80 and 81, that we sent Lut alayhi salam, Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, to the people. And he said to them, do you practice lewdness, which no one has done before? You prefer in lust men over women. You have indeed gone far beyond the limits. Lut alayhi salam says that these people used to practice homosexuality. And you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends brimstones on them. homosexuality is prohibited in the Holy Quran. But now we find in the modern world, they have legalized gay marriage. Do you know that? When I was in Canada, it came in front page. Man and man kissing each other, husband, wife. Legalized gay, homosexuality. Legalized. The gays, they take out a procession for their rights. Gay rights. A headquarters San Francisco, etc. One of the reasons homosexuality. Then comes adultery. The Quran says in Surah Isra, chapter number 17, verse number 32, it says that come not close to adultery. It's an evil opening other roads to evil. Come not close to adultery. And do you know, in America, a man has 8 different sexual partners on an average before he settles down with one permanent life partner. On average 8. Some may have 20, some may have 30, some may have 1, some may have 2. On average 8 sexual partners before they settle down with a permanent wife. Do you know this? It has been legalized there. Quran is against adultery, totally against adultery. And one of the cause of AIDS is prostitution. You know what we medical doctors call them? CSW. You know what is CSW? Commercial sex workers. We give refined words for this. And according to Dr. Gilada in that conference, he said 50% of the commercial sex workers of Bombay had AIDS. By the end of the century, 90% will have it. There is no place for prostitution in Islam. And most of the people going to prostitutes, the report said, were between 15 to 24 years, young people. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, it's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, chapter number 3, hadith number 4. He said, O young people, whoever has the means to get married, for it will help you to lower your gaze. Marrying early is preferable in Islam. It will prevent adultery. It will prevent promiscuity. It will prevent homosexuality. Therefore, our Prophet said, marriage completes half your deen. Come to the last reason he gave, associated with tuberculosis, as well as alcoholism. Major people that go to the prostitute, 95% they have alcohol. Alcoholics. Quran says, as I mentioned earlier, in Surah Maida, chapter 5, verse number 90, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, innamal khamru wal maisiru, most certainly intoxicants and gambling, wal anzabu wal aslamu, dedication of stones, divination of arrows, rishtum min amali shaitan, these are Satan's handiwork. Fashtanibu lalakum tuflihun. Abstain from such handiwork that you may prosper. Today, the medical doctors, they say, don't call them drunkards. I'll call them the disease. Treat them like patients. You know, that's the terminology we use in the new books of medicine. Alcohol is a disease. How you treat a patient of tuberculosis, of cancer, don't blame the alcoholics. Treat them as patients. It's a disease. I tell them that if alcohol is a disease, it's the only disease sold in bottles. It's the only disease advertised in the newspapers, in the magazines, in the radios, as well as the television. Our government has a law that you cannot advertise anything like alcohol. So you know what they do? Bagpiper soda. Who drinks bagpiper soda? It is there. People know it is bagpiper whiskey. It's not bagpiper soda. I saw an ad, London Pilsner or some other alcohol company, glass, ad for glass. Any logical person will know it is an ad for that alcohol. So they're taking a government for a ride. These ads are allowed even on the television, you see it. If alcohol is a disease, it is the only disease which gets revenue for the government. It is the only disease which has got licensed outlets. It's the only disease which has got no viral or germ cause. It's the disease which causes violent deaths on the highway. It's the disease which destroys the family. The Quran says it's not a disease, it says, Rishtum min amali shaitan. These are Satan's handiwork. Fashtanibu lalakum tuflihun. Abstain from this handiwork that you may prosper.
The next question, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Zakir Naik. Educated people does not believe the Qiyamah, the last days which is judged by Allah, obedience of Allah goes to heaven, disobedience, that is sinners, goes to hell.
The brother posed the question that educated people don't believe in Qiyamah, the day of resurrection, and life after death, etc., that the world is going to end, etc. So, how will you prove to them logically or scientifically about Qiyamah, about life after death, etc.? Brother, one way, as I said earlier, that if 80% of the Quran has been proved to be 100% correct, and the remaining 20% is ambiguous, my logic says that even this 20% will be correct. That's the answer I gave earlier. There's another way you can prove to these educated people by asking them a simple question. You ask them a question, is robbing good or bad? Robbing, is it good or bad? The brother is saying it is bad. Is raping good or bad? Bad. The brother is saying it is bad. What I ask, the question to these educated people who don't believe in Qiyamah, who don't believe in life after death, I tell them, can you give me one logical reason why robbing is bad? Only one. Can you give me a logical reason why it is bad?
People do live in simple way, that is they do the bad thing.
People will do bad things.
People like to live in simple way, that is what they would like to do the bad things.
I don't get the answer. Whatever it is, if you ask a person why not to rob, there will be various reasons. That if you rob, it hurts the feeling of the other person. See, I'm telling you, I am a smuggler. Suppose I'm a smuggler. You prove to me why robbing is bad. See, I'm not bothered whether harming the other person or not. No one can harm me. If I rob, if I take out 1,000 rupees from the wallet of a man passing by, I can go to Dilli Darbar, I can have dinner, I can have lunch, I can go to a movie, I can enjoy life. It is good. Why it is bad? Some people say, if you rob someone else, someday someone will rob you. No one can rob me. I am a mafia. Just an example, I am a mafia. I have got 1,000 bodyguards, all with AK-47. All with AK-47. No one can harm me. I can harm them. I have got 1,000 bodyguards, all with AK-47. No one can harm my family. My family is guarded. I want to ask the question, you prove to me robbing is bad. One logical reason, not two. Why it is bad, and I will stop it immediately. I am a logical person. I believe in science, as you said. I'm a logical person. I believe in science. You prove to me why it is bad. Some may say that, see, it's against humanity. I said, who wrote this book called Humanity? Who wrote it? I don't believe in it. I'm enjoying life. When I rob 1,000 rupees, when I rob 1 lakh rupees, I can enjoy life. I can buy a new flat. I can go abroad. And no one can harm me because I am a mafia. Some people say, the police will catch you and put you in the jail. I say, I've got the police in my pocket. I've got the ministers in my pocket. And we know that. Throughout the world, there are various top smugglers who have got the police in the pocket. They have got ministers in the pocket. No one can harm them. Throughout the world, you got example. I'm saying I'm such a mafia. You prove to me why it is bad, and I will stop robbing. And this question I posed to thousands of people in audiences. Whatever answer they give, it does not satisfy logic and reason. So, I tell them, okay, now you become that mafia, and I will try and convince to you why robbing is bad. Why raping is bad. So he's happy, okay, now Zakir took me for a ride, now we will take Zakir for a ride. So I tell him, the reason why robbing is bad, maybe you're a mafia, no one can harm you, I agree with you. No one can harm your family. But if you rob, you go against the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in the hereafter you'll get punishment. In this world, you may have the police in your pocket, you may have the minister in your pocket, but in the hereafter, you will be held responsible. I am asking you a question that your human law, you talk about a human law. Now, I am speaking as a Muslim. Now you are the mafia. I am speaking as a Muslim and convincing you of Qiyamah and life after death. I am telling you that if you are a mafia and you kill many people, you may get saved in this world, not in the hereafter. I ask a question that suppose there is a smuggler who has killed hundreds of people. Don't you think he requires punishment? He requires. Where will he get it? We see many smugglers lead a luxurious life. They have got palaces. They enjoy life. And they die a very good death. Some people die a bad death. Some people die a good death. Don't you think they require punishment? Hitler. Do you know Hitler? Hitler incinerated 6 million Jews. He burnt 6 million Jews alive. Do you know that? Even if you say 6 lakh, I agree with you. You say 6,000, I agree with you. I'm asking the question, if your law catches Hitler, what punishment can you give him? What punishment? Worst you can do is incinerate him. You can burn him. But that will compensate only for one death. What about the other 5,900,999 deaths? But in my logical case, in the year after, Allah will put him in the hell. And Quran says in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse 56, as to those who reject our signs, we will put you in hellfire. And as often as your skins are roasted, we shall give you fresh skins. So if Allah wants, He can burn Hitler 6 million times. He can even burn Hitler 12 million times. Therefore, without a year after, there will be no morality in this world. So raping is bad. Why? Because if you get saved in this world, you will pay in the year after. Hope that answers the question.
The next question from the ladies' side.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you please comment on artificial insemination and test tube babies?
The sister posed the question, can I comment on artificial insemination and test tube baby, whether it's allowed or not in Islam? That's what she means. Sister, artificial insemination is of two types. One is homogeneous and the other is heterogeneous. Homogeneous means using the sperm and the ovum of the husband and wife. If suppose the wife or the husband has certain medical problems, and if you know by doing homogeneous artificial insemination, they can give birth to a child, it's perfectly allowed. But heterogeneous artificial insemination in which you get a sperm from a sperm bank, it's totally haram. How? You have blood bank. Here today, you also have sperm bank. You cannot go to a sperm bank and get a sperm and use it in your wife. That's haram. So homogeneous artificial insemination is allowed, heterogeneous is not allowed. Same way for the test tube babies, whatever. If it's of the husband and wife, it's totally allowed. If it's not of husband and wife, it's not allowed. It's as good as adultery. Hope that answers the question.
I would request the audience for another 3 minutes. You have borne so much of your time with us. Thank you for your patience. Just give us 3 to 4 minutes to complete the program in the proper format. We apologize to the people waiting in the queue. We understand their enthusiasm, but we hope we will indulge their patience. What I would request, if you have any further questions on this subject or any question on Islam and comparative religion, you are most welcome to attend our lectures at the Islamic Research Foundation Auditorium, which are followed by question and answer sessions every Saturday at 2:45 p.m., every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., and every Monday for ladies at 3 p.m., which are usually handled by Dr. Zakir or some other expert on Islam and comparative religion from the Islamic Research Foundation. We thank Almighty Allah for making this evening program possible for all of us here. On behalf of the Islamic Research Foundation, I thank all our esteemed guests of honor, brothers and sisters present here today, for their rapt attention and enthusiasm we have had throughout the program. Believe me, you all have encouraged Dr. Zakir to strive on harder and give better performances. You have. We appreciate and thank all the persons involved in the professional video recording of the program today, mostly from the Star TV network, so that the many millions to whom this program may go over satellite television would be able to appreciate it too. We are especially thankful to the press who's present here today. Again, they have responded very well. We have noticed in the past that the press has given objective reportage to most of our programs that we have had, and not as some of the Muslims have advised us, no, they always write against you all. They have been not kind, they have been objective, I would say. Lastly, I would like to congratulate and thank all the many volunteers who have assisted us and supported us in handling such a vast audience. It's not possible without with just one or two people of us. We are the ones whose faces are seen on the stage. Their efforts are there behind all these curtains and chairs. Until we meet again for such regular special programs, inshallah, we hope you would keep in touch with the IRF and its regular programs. We end the program today with a short dua by Ashraf Muhammadi. Brother Ashraf Muhammadi.
ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. O Lord, give us the best in this world and the best in the hereafter, and save us from the torment of hellfire. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. O Lord, accept this service from us, for you are all hearing, all knowing, and forgive us, for you are often forgiving, most merciful. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة. O Lord, let not our hearts deviate after you have guided us, and grant us mercy from you. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen.